podcast journey week by week. SNL's best episodes they seek. From Carlin to Hanks to Mulaney, counting down moments for you and me. Amazing episodes, epic hosts, the ones that the fans love the most.
Hello and welcome into the SNL Greatest Episode Series. My name is Bill Kenny. I'm so glad that you're joining us. We're a presentation of LateNighter.com, and no, I am not John Schneider. If you missed us last week, our man got married this weekend, so congratulations once again to him. But, you know, I'm bringing in, it's almost all-star time for baseball, and I'm bringing in some all-star hosts to come in and join me. First up, I've got to introduce That Week in SNL's Andrew Dick. Andrew, how you been?
Doing well, you know, just trying to survive another crushing North Carolina summer and still try to do podcasty things on top of that. But yeah, been doing well and excited to run down these episodes. I think we got a lot to discuss here.
A lot to discuss for sure. I'm so glad you're joining us. And also joining us is another great host, my friend from By the Numbers, Mr. Mike Murray. Mike, how you doing? What are you doing without crunching numbers all summer?
I find other ways. I've been analyzing the Karen Reed trial. That's kind of what I've been up to. But I had experience this weekend, Bill. I made a joke that was basically only for Bill Kenny, so I have to say it now. I saw the Savannah Bananas on Saturday night at Fenway, and I said, "This is the what up with that of baseball." And I was like, "Oh, if only Bill were here, he would get that joke."
You should have texted me. Yes, that is absolutely the truth.
I saved it for air.
Was Lindsey Buckingham there?
No, he was cut for time.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm so glad you're joining me as well. So, you know, if you've been listening to us every week, we've had some interesting episodes to talk about. I had to get a little salty last week with a couple of the choices, and we'll see. You know, Andrew Dick is not a salty guy, but you know, maybe he'll have some for this week. We'll see. But yeah, we've let's go through the list that we have thus far up until this week.
Yes, Bill?
Mike, you have the list?
Hello?
Oh, I thought the list is for the end.
Not the rankings, the list.
Okay. I don't have that list, Bill. So.
Oh, okay.
Just going with what I got here.
All
John,
righty.
help us.
Well,
We're already spiraling.
We are off and running. Let me pull that up real quick. I'm not going to have it on the screen for you, but we had number 50, Patrick Swayze and Mariah Carey from season 16. Season 17, Michael Jordan and Public Enemy came in at 49. David Alan Grier from season 21 at 48. 47 was Anne Hathaway and the Killers from season 34. Jerry Seinfeld's episode from season 17 is at number 46. 45 was Conan O'Brien and his only hosting stint with Don Henley. Number 44 was the Justin Timberlake episode from season 38. We've got William Shatner coming in from season 12 at number 43. Number 42. All right. Number 42, Justin Timberlake and Lady Gaga from season 36. Christopher Walken came in at 41 with his season 28 stint. Alec Baldwin and Pavarotti and Vanessa Williams at season 24 at number 40. Number 39 was Sigourney Weaver, starting a new era in season 12. And then last week we revealed Ryan Gosling at season 49 at number 38. Number 37, an all-timer in Alec Baldwin and the B-52s from season 15.
Too early
Seth
for that.
MacFarlane and Frank Ocean from season 38 at number 36. And number 35 was Lindsay Lohan and Usher from season 29. Andrew Dick, your first thoughts when you see what we've revealed so far?
Mostly, I feel it's pretty respectable, but you know, I guess it's part of making this the 50 greatest episodes of the 50 seasons. Nice round numbers. But to have the Ryan Gosling episode up there already in the greatest all-time rankings does feel weird to me. Just in general, and yeah, we'll kind of round back on that idea later in this episode. Little something to keep you hanging on. And so, yeah, just Gosling and the Lindsay Lohan episode are the two that kind of stick out to me. Is like, yeah, I don't know about that. Everything else seems fine to be on the list, though Baldwin, the first Baldwin episode, at 37. Wow, I don't know. I really thought that would place rank higher. I don't know.
Yeah, very true. And what we're finding week to week is that, an iconic sketch, something that sticks out in people's minds, is what's kind of driving a lot of this. And some of them are pleasant surprise. I know when we watched the Patrick Swayze episode, it was like, oh, there's a lot of good sketches in there. There's no duds. Yeah. It's a really good episode. William Shatner, another one, Alec Baldwin, as you said. But yeah, there's a little bit of danger with just remembering one sketch from an hour-and-a-half show and then going back and watching it and being like, yeah, this maybe not. But yes, as you said, a lot of good choices so far. Mike, what do you think from what you see here so far?
I'm just impressed anytime I see anything like pre-1990. So I'm always happy about that when I see now, like, oh, people remember that was a good show, or not just like this is the first time this happened with this host or something like that. Like if it's, like the second or third time somebody hosted and that was the best one, I'd rather see that than just like the excitement of a new host. I mean, I know we had like Conan's One and Only, like that's maybe because he has so many fans, but there's some good stuff in there, of course. The Lindsay Lohan Usher, like that had a burn, Bill. I mean, that was probably that was her first time as well, I believe, season 29. And then, yeah, I echo what Andrew says. I mean, and this is a bigger, broader conversation about the Gosling 49. Is there a statute of like, you cannot rank something within 3, 5, maybe even 10 years. Like, if they did the Oscars 10 years later, they'd probably get it right way more often. But there's like just a lot of buzz and campaigning. So it's tough to say because I don't know if we're going to see a season 50 in this list at any point because I'm not privy to the rankings, Bill. But we have a 49 on there. So it's what do you think, Bill? I know we want to rank 50 seasons, 50 episodes, but if you were making the rules, if you were the gamekeeper, would you say, anything from 46 to 50, just you have to wait?
I think I agree with you. And I think, we may talk about something like that tonight. No spoilers, but, where it's a very good episode, but what is gonna transfer over time? Is it going to make sense as we go along and see? Obviously topical stuff is going to outdate itself at some point, but there are sketches that 10 years down the road, you're like, I cannot believe they did that. So that's part of the issue. I think I agree with you. I might even go 10 years, but we do want the wide swath. We do want to have everything included. And, maybe if this is something we revisit in 5 years, some of these episodes will fall off because of that. But yeah, very good points. Let's get into it. Let's break down what we have tonight. We're going to do 34 through 31, and we're going to start with another very prominent host throughout the years, somebody we've talked about once already on this countdown. And of course, I'm talking about number 34, coming in at number 34, Christopher Walken and Arrested Development from October of 1992. Season 18, episode 4, with, this is the second time he comes in and hosts, and we already can see what an incredible guy that he is when he hosts. Andrew, what are your first thoughts as you see Walken show up here?
Again, another very respectable choice. This is one obviously I'd seen multiple times on Comedy Central growing up. So I could already just like, oh yeah, that's the Ed Glosser Trivial Psychic episode. Of course, that's a great sketch. And then revisiting the episode kind of realized how much more was in this episode. And I think it is kind of smack dab in a very intriguing era for the show where it's transitioning away from the later 80s vibe into more of the Bad Boys era, season 19, season 20. And I obviously, I'm not a big fan of that stuff. And so this might be the last truly, I don't know. I would have to kind of look at the rest of the breakdown for season 18, but this might be the true last great episode of this era, possibly.
Yeah, I think we're right on the cusp of that. And it's interesting. We had this already with Timberlake, and you see one of these later episodes from a five-timer, and you're like, wow, what a great episode. And then you see an earlier one, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is why this is a little bit higher. Mike, do you think this is a good placement for somebody like Walken?
Well, considering we've already seen him on the top 50, that is interesting. Is he's the first repeat? No,
Second, Justin Timberlake.
okay, Timberlake, and now
and
Walken.
And we had Baldwin twice too.
Okay, well, I gotta catch up. I love this episode. It's my favorite Walken episode. I really, when rewatching it, like Andrew said, I'm like, okay, I know this is my favorite Continental coming up, and I know we have the Sinead thing that just happened in the Pesci episode, and now this one, so we're still kind of covering Sinead and Arrested Development, Tennessee. So that was fun. But I think it's a good placement, kind of right in the middle. When I got this list, I was, kind of thinking this was going to be the highest when we talked about it, ended up being the lowest. But let's dive into it, because there's a lot to talk about this one, including the cold open.
Yeah. Now, do either of you think there's something iconic? Now, we obviously have a lot of great sketches here, but is there something that, as far as iconic, that you would point out to somebody who was not an SNL fan, that you would want them, that we should talk about first here?
Ooh,
I would say this is the best Continental. So if you were gonna, it's not the first one, but it's the second one, and I think it's the best one. I think they've used it in like his best of. So, and it's also, it's a 9 minute and 15-second sketch. I had to bring the stats, Bill. That's over a minute longer than the longest Mulaney musical. So that just give you a scope of the length of this sketch. And it's really just him. We see Julia run off at the very, very beginning, but it's, as always, it's just Walken POV, and it's a classic. It's iconic. So that for actual moments, that's a long moment, 9 minutes, 15 seconds, but I'm going to pick that, Bill.
Yeah, Mike, you'd be in your glory, right? Your timing would be so easy for something like this, right? You just kind of sit back, have a beer, maybe use the restroom, and come back, and it's still just Walken. Now, would the hand get any screen time? I guess would be the.
If we can identify the hand, then yeah, do we know who the hand is?
It's got to be the cameraman, right? That's how they did it.
Yeah, they typically.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times they showed that in the goodbyes, but they did show that a couple of times. I think where
because they had that
big burly guy with the glove
with the little dainty glove,
In the Quinta Brunson episode this season, right? They did the gorilla fight sketch, and they had like puppeteer arms. Obviously, you can't use human arms to be a gorilla, but it was a POV sketch, so I didn't know if they had a woman with putting the hand out behind the cameraman. I don't know. I wasn't there.
You weren't even born, right?
Almost.
Andrew, what are your memories of the Continental, and this one in particular?
It's kind of interesting to think about the Continental, because these absolutely crushed for me as a kid, and I still enjoy them now. But I'm still like, when I watch them, it's like, why did these have me rolling as like a 10-year-old? Like, what was I seeing in them? Like, what exactly? I guess just beyond, just the entire affectation of Christopher in it, and him just being, just tapping into his lunacy. That's always strikes me when I revisit those. I was like,
that was my exact take, by the way. I was like, why did I find this funny as a boy?
I think we should also point out, though, the cold open with Phil as Stockdale, I think, is one of the more successful bits of cold open, because I think at this, like, nobody remembers Stockdale's performance in the vice presidential debate. But that doesn't matter, because this cold open is just so well conceived. Dana and especially Phil are so fun together. And I think it succeeds even if you have no clue what it is talking about, which I think is a really good sign of something that is really working on all cylinders. And also shout out to I think the best It's Pat, which
Well,
just kind of completely boils it down to this very densely written meta take on it. It almost seems written by somebody who is tired of those sketches and wants to just, it's like, that's it. We have no ideas for this anymore. Let's just have Christopher. It's just him, basically. I don't even think Pat has any lines beyond walking in, and it's just his overwrought breakdown of the situation is hilarious. So
yes.
Pat would appear 4 more times, but this was the 10th Pat appearance. And then we get to
90s.
boil it down.
Well, let's start at the cold open,
Yeah,
as
let's do
Andrew
that.
talks about, and we'll kind of run through everything as we can. Yes, this is one of my favorite cold opens ever. It's one of the most quotable to me. Like I can still hear my like, who am I? Why am I here? It's something I'll still drop into a conversation occasionally. And yeah, I mean, Phil running next to the car is just fantastic. Like it's hard. Like this guy Stockdale was, I believe he was a war hero, and like he got
Vice Admiral.
Yeah.
Yes,
Put some respect on his name.
he got lambasted for his performance, and rightfully so. He wasn't prepared, but yes, SNL ran with this in such an impressive way. So Mike, are you a fan of this cold open?
I love this cold open, and it's easy when you in your SNL memory, kind of like thinking of like what was the Kramer plot and like the puffy shirt, like what cold open belonged to this episode. If the I guess that's a bad example because Kramer's girlfriend gave Jerry the puffy shirt, but you know what I mean. In this case, there's no host in the cold open. It's politics. What cold open lines up with this episode. So this actually got the biggest laugh from me on the rewatch because I hadn't seen the episode in a while, and it is one of my favorites. And it's such a good Carvey Hartman pairing. And it's like you have Dana being like phased out because he's going to leave 8 episodes later, and to have Hartman do this awesome impression. Don't care if it's accurate. That just doesn't matter if it's lost of time and it's been 33 years. It's Hartman just being pure Hartman. Carvey's Perot is one of my favorites to this day. I think if it weren't for Dana Carvey, people might forget Ross Perot. That's how good that impression is. And just the gag of like, it's not a recreation. It's maybe it's a summary of the debate, but I love those. John talks about having a scene with these political characters rather than recreating it, and it's them in a car, and then Hartman basically being this rabid dog that Carvey's Perot abandons in the woods, and of course he catches up with the car. Great performance of running in place in front of the green screen by Hartman, and it's so good. It's one of my favorite political cold opens I think ever. Bill.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The Perot point is spot on because he would probably be lost to time, as many of these third party or fringe candidates are. Does anybody remember Steve Forbes other than the moment that he had on SNL? But
does anyone remember Perot's running mate in '96? Pat Choate. No one remembers him, but
Pat Choate. Wow, that's quite a name.
That's a poem.
Yeah. So. Yeah, everything the guys have said.
And also, I think we've got to, Katrina Johnson also did a fantastic Perot on all of that. So, there's also.
There you go.
There's a poll.
And Sherry O'Terry doing it in '96 on SNL. So big shoes to fill. So then we get into the monologue. We've reached the point where Walken is doing song and dance. I think the most notable of this, Andrew, is that we get Jan Hooks. So she's going to have a big night here. She's not here to do Hillary. She's here to do mostly Sinead, but she also appears a couple other times. And this is one of those moments we get backstage. I love this one so much.
Yeah, this made me wonder just how many monologues they had done like this up to this point. The whole sort of sing and dance back through the behind the scenes. And I'm going to guess that back in '92, this would still feel fairly new, something they hadn't done a lot. We will kind of revisit this idea later on in our discussions tonight, where I feel like it gets so done to death that it no longer really feels special. Here, it still has a bit of that flair, that pop. We faff around with Lauren a little bit. Jan is there, and that's always great. And so, yeah, it gets the show off on, already just cold open into the very energetic monologue. We're cooking.
Yeah, Mike, whenever I saw this as a kid pop up, Jan Hook's special guest, it was something that, got me excited. I loved seeing her come back. One of the few cast members to ever get that honor being mentioned in that way in the opening credits.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, she's so game to go here. And as Andrew says, this is still a unique experience. Is this something that you enjoyed going back?
Yeah, definitely. When I did watch all the montages on these 4 episodes we're covering tonight, and I saw that Jan Hook's card in the montage, I was like, oh, shit, I remember Jan Hook's being in this episode. Oh, of course, yeah, she's dancing with Walken in the monologue. Like, oh, what else does she do? And why is she here? Like, she left 18 months ago. Like you said, it's not doing Hillary Clinton. And then I dug deeper, Bill, and I was like, is it because she had a small role in Batman Returns with Christopher Walken in June? Like, is that it? Like, is she friends with Chris Walken? So I had this is October 24th, 92. That movie came out, only 4 months earlier. But that's the only connection I could find in my 2 minutes of web research. So, but I did enjoy it, Bill. I love Jan.
Yeah, I think part of it is the fact that they were going to lambaste Sinead again, and her having done it in the Sinatra Group was a good reason to bring that in here, right?
Yeah.
Sinatra Group was before this, so
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we get into an interesting ad here, which they were fond of doing at this point. Rob Schneider, not John's relation, but doing a serviceable job here in a FedEx run up that you forgot to send a package and tire tracks and multiple dresses and things like that. So I think this is okay.
Yeah, I think this one is cute. Not a lot to say about it generally. Yeah. It has its idea, it commits to it. And that's about it, probably.
Yeah, they were fond of doing this kind of ad back then. So but I want to dive into one of the better sketches of the night. We get Ed Glosser, Trivial Psychic. This is a walk-in piece if there ever was one, right? I mean, Mike, what do you think as you find out that somebody left their coffee in a cab and they're going to have to get another one?
First of all, I love Jiffy Express, so I'd want to shout that out. But yes,
okay.
It's yeah, people get fired over this. That's that's the quotable line.
I know people like it, so I'm not hating on it. I just
yeah, but yeah, to your point, it's a waste of coffee, So I think Phil says, we have a whole pot here. But yeah, of course, the dead zone, walk-in, creepy close-ups, it's all there. I mean, Ed Glosser, I think, stands up, even if you haven't seen the dead zone. So I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike, and then this is the first of 2 references you get to the World Series, which was concluding as SNL was airing.
It was
Toronto over Atlanta this night, and they won the World Series.
Yep, Hartman versus Hooks.
Yes. So, Andrew, you a fan of Ed Glosser?
Oh yeah, I love this sketch, and I think it's pretty interesting to see how it follows the 9.5 minute Continental, where Ed Glosser's like, it's in and out. It maybe just because Continental was so long, it feels that much more shorter, but it feels like something that is maybe maxes out at 4 minutes, and it just gets in, does the variations on the gag, has a wonderful out. I think it's one of the few times where a sketch as beautifully stupid as this can actually have a good out, where with Chris Rock coming in as the delivery man. It's like, you have a car. Can you take me? Can you give me a ride? Nobody around here likes me. It's just a great way to end it. It's a well crafted bit of sketching.
Yeah, I enjoy this one a lot. Everybody's reactions as it just gets dumber and dumber, his predictions. But yeah, so then we get Arrested Development, which is a moment in time. I mean, they were huge at this moment. Guys, we've been kind of just giving extra credit if the music is good and just kind of ignoring it if it's not. I think we've got some good ones here. And, they do Tennessee and they do People Every Day. Tennessee was a huge hit in 1992. Either of you a fan of the Arrested Development?
Yeah, I actually I got to see them multiple times because this is rather random. But I took a the band Train did a musical cruise and stuff, and so I ended up taking my father's ticket after he passed, and went with my mom and friends and stuff, and as well as my sister. And Arrested Development was playing, and so we basically went and saw every single one of their concerts on the boat, because they were one of like two bands we were actually interested in seeing. And so we saw them like 5 times over the course of like 3 days, and they put on a great show. They do a great job here. And I actually think that all of our episodes that we're covering tonight have really good musical performances. If anything ties them all together, I think that the music helps put them all, makes them a cut above, which I do think is important for when you start considering greatest of all time episodes, is having the musical guests in the conversation.
I agree. Mike, are you a bigger fan of Arrested Development, the band, or the Jason Bateman show?
Probably the band. I mean, their first album is great. So it's very different hip hop at that time. Like after like The Chronic had come out, and you have their debut album. And, I want to challenge you to a game of horseshoes. Horseshoes. So
Horseshoes.
I think I find a way to work that in once in a while. But yeah, I love that song. I have an 18-hour Spotify playlist of just all 90s. I think it's one of the first tracks I put on. It's called Bop It. So I'll share it with you, Bill.
Nice. Love it. Yeah. No, I'm fond of these guys. I think there's certain bands in this early 90s era, and SNL is doing much better with their music at this point in time. I think they get a lot of current and progressive bands, and I think Arrested Development is one of them for sure. Let's head over to Weekend Update. We're getting a lot of presidential jokes, of course, because we're only a few days away from the 92 election. We get two correspondents here, Jan Brady and David Spade, doing the Hollywood Minute. So this is, the second time that Spade brings out Hollywood Minute. It's a little tamer than we've seen, I think as we progress. It's not quite as mean as he will get in future.
It doesn't seem as confident, I'll say.
There's that, yeah. And he's definitely trying to work in a catchphrase, right? Yeah, look into it.
And before we get into these, I want to say that I always love, especially the earlier chunks of Nealon's update. And so one of the things that sticks out from any of these episodes actually is his earlier in the week, Monday, and the next, and then we go into the next story. That stuff always that was primo Nealon.
Yeah, he's doing his best Chevy there, right? I mean, that's right out of the Chevy Chase playbook, and I love that as well. Mike, what do you think of the Hollywood Minute? Is Spade kind of tamer than we come to get to know him?
Well, this one makes it recurring, right? Like you said, it's the second one. He did it 12 times, so he kind of got his just like that a-hole Spade kind of developed with that segment for sure. I don't know. I think it was that tame. He was really going after, A-list singers like Madonna, Mariah Carey and stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure I have seen all 12 of them, but I haven't seen any of them in a long time. So it was fun to see that early iteration of Spade. And I loved seeing Jan Brady, because, I mean, how Melanie Hutzel doesn't get talked about enough on this pod.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely. She's there to talk about the election, of course. And Perot reminds her of her cousin Oliver.
And this was a great Jan Brady. These always kind of kill for me, but this one felt like, because it had the election tie-in, it just had more lanes to go on than the usual, just keeping it to sort of Brady related nonsense. So this one kind of killed for me.
Yeah, and if you don't remember, and why would you? Because it's 33 years ago, Perot kept dropping out of the race all summer long. He said there was a problem with his daughter, and he was, so he kept coming back and forth into the election. And so that's why she references this with the cousin Oliver. He goes away, then he comes back.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, that's the whole thinking behind that. I think this is one of the better ones too, for Jan and Melanie. Yeah, definitely does not get talked about enough.
One of two recurring characters for Melanie Hutzel, of course. Other one is the Tridelts, and she had 3 recurring impressions. Bill, can you name any of the 3 recurring impressions?
Tori Spelling for sure.
That's number 1. She did it 6 times, and she had 2 other ones that she did more than once. You know, in more than one episode, I should say.
I can't think of.
And it's, I mean, one of them I think is great because of the. I think it was in a monologue with Farley, is Tanya Harding, because she looks just like her.
Yes.
And then Winona Judd.
Winona Judd. Wow. From way downtown. Wow.
That's the early 90s for you. Woo! Oh my God.
Mike, always bringing the good stuff. Yes. Then we get into Stock Talk. This is an interesting one to get into. You know, there's a lot of good performances in this, Andrew. And we get another Jan Hooks appearance. So
we do. And this one, especially considering the era that we're kind of in, and we'll be getting into, this one I was surprised worked as much as it did for me. Though it does still have these very, and maybe rightfully so, to not make it seem so cutesy. But you know, so okay, it's just I think it's Julia Sweeney interviewing a bunch of stalkers, and Christopher Walken, he only refers to the person that he's stalking as bitch, and it is very coarse, it is very rough, and he does it throughout the entire sketch. And then you've got Adam Sandler kind of doing goofy things next to him and stuff. And so it like really balances this dark and light and aggressiveness and goofiness that I feel the show in just a couple months will not be able to walk that tightrope as they do here. Very shocked that I was like, I can't believe they managed to walk that. Jeez.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes with the Spade being a little more subdued. I think Sandler's, even though he's doing Sandler, he's a little more subdued than we will see him in later years as well. So he has, you know, every time it goes back to him, it's, you know, he's in love with the girl from 5th grade. And his line is, "Oh, yes."
I think it probably helps that Jan is there as well, that nobody can really go out of control because you've got somebody like Jan there who is taking it completely 100% seriously. So, yeah, you can't go on looking like a cartoon character next to Jan in this sketch.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, do you think, I know I'm not going to put you on the spot if you know this or not, but is this the only time Adam appears with Jan in a sketch?
I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Has to be, right? I mean, because most of the time she comes back, she's Hillary. She's working with Phil. She works with Aykroyd. You know, we don't get a lot of interaction with this second part of the second golden era.
Yeah, and it happens twice tonight, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
Good point.
Mike, are you a fan of Stock Talk?
Yeah, I will not sell. I will buy on Stock Talk. I think the rule of 3 here was like we have the host and we have Sandler and Schneider to kind of be below him to make him be the amplified one. And then maybe it was a case of, well, Jan's in the building, let's add a 4th stalker. And she really ran with it. So I think, you know, Walken and her were kind of the A players of the rule of 3, right? And it became a rule of 4. And she was obsessed in stalking Hasselhoff. I love how they say, you know, from Knight Rider, he's on Baywatch now. So great use of Jan Hooks. And it's fun when, you know, she's on hosting it, so she can do something like this, and it's a lot of fun. So I like Stock Talk a lot.
Yeah, the Hasselhoff angle is fun, but I will have one small quibble because that's just, you know, my brain works. She's talking about Knight Rider from 88, 89. Knight Rider went off the air in 86, so whoever the writer was on this sketch should have looked into that a little bit further. He was not even on Baywatch yet, so I don't even think that was yeah.
Well, maybe she was from Canada and they were just getting the seasons late. You never know. You never know.
Damn you, 1992 writer! I have to talk to you. And then Andrew referenced this earlier. We get this "It's Pat," which is very strange for the way that this is laid out. You know, Julia doesn't have a lot to do here. I get really tired of the It's Pats, but I think this is one that kind of works, Mike.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Julia did Pat 14 times, and it's probably like 12 too many. I wish this was like the second version of Pat that kind of closed the book, because it might be the best one, as Andrew said, because they kind of dissect what the sketch is all about. And the sacrifice of that is, Pat doesn't really get anything funny to say, but at the end of the sketch, Walken just doesn't jump out the window. He just walks off set. walking off set.
I'm in a tizzy. I'm in a tizzy.
It might be my favorite sketch of the night, to be honest, or at least like best written. It's just, he's got a litany of dialogue to bash out, and it's all so hilarious, especially if you have been, I usually I think It's Pat is, I don't know. That's a whole discussion, but usually I think they're fairly interesting. But yeah, the whole just dissection of this is hilarious, and especially if you've seen so many, you'd go like, all right, yeah, this was deserved at this point. We can do this.
Yeah. Not as good as the movie though, right, Andrew?
I haven't seen the movie since like 1996. I cannot not comment on that.
We were two of the people that saw that out of the 32 that saw it.
Only on VHS. Did not see it in a theater, though. I think it was nearly impossible to do so.
Yes, absolutely. And then we get a small runner here. We get the Sinead O'Connor stuff. Now, your mileage may vary on your feelings about this. I know the music documentary covered this a lot, and she really got the short shrift, as we all know. But Jan does a very good Sinead O'Connor, and it's all about her getting booed. I think she got booed in Budapest right after her appearance on SNL, ripping up the Pope. So that's what this is referencing, which is why we get
like Nealon comes out as Chris Christopherson,
right.
So I forgot exactly where.
So yeah, he comes out and consoles her. He actually came out and consoled her at that concert. Mm-hmm. So
the last chunk of this episode really comes in, and I mean, it already kind of starts with stock talk, but like I said, that it manages to get over it. The last chunk of this episode really punches you in the face, especially now, considering the whole thing with Sinead and just how the show kept going back to that well, and don't like this runner at all. Very, very nasty stuff.
Yeah, I think the only redeemable thing out of this is one of my favorite Sandler characters, in Audience McGee. We get him for the first time in the second part of this runner. But yeah, I mean, Mike, we just went through the whole Morgan Wallen bullshit, and that was so much worse to me than what she had done. And all they did was make fun of him and put out a T-shirt, and so they went full board. Like Pesci had killed her just a couple of weeks ago, and then we get this here. I don't want to punish Jan because I'm happy she's in the building, but do you have anything out of this that you're okay with?
Well, the Pesci thing was by far the worst that they did following the incident, quote unquote, of, Sinead O'Connor war performance. But this was like, I don't know. I feel like it wasn't needed, but at the same time, I do like in modern SNL when they reference the previous episodes or kind of tie it together. So I won't fault them for that at all. And as you said, I love to see Jan, and she does look exactly like Sinead when she's in costume on set there. And it was actually, I think it was Hartman that came on as Chris Christopherson, and also looked shockingly like him too. I had to look up who it was when I was watching it, because I was like, who is that? And then I looked up the history of it, like you mentioned, Bill, with him coming on, because that was a big thing at the time too. So I don't know. I feel like I'd have to watch this in 92 to really laugh at this. And now I'm like, not laughing at it at all. So it's just kind of one of those cases of, it doesn't age well. But if you had that lens for SNL, then we wouldn't have a podcast. So I won't blame them for it now.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get back into the walk-in wackiness. I think with Professor C and the Super Sleuths, where he's been badly injured and he doesn't want anyone to leave, as he's having a catheter put in, having a bedpan brought in. this is kind of silliness, but it's late night in the night. Mike, are you a fan of Professor C here?
This was other than Sinead, this was kind of my dud for the night. I think I watched it and then I watched it again because I tuned out of it. So that's probably the first bad sign. I said, I got to watch every sketch and give it my full attention. So I went back and watched this one sketch, and yeah, I did not love it. So for an episode that I did hail as my favorite walk-in, this was the down for me. And SNL has done a lot of sketches like this where they do like a hospital or something like this where it's just really just like either some type of body humor and it's one note, and I guess those don't work for me now or then.
Yeah, it's very one note, Andrew.
Yeah, same. Season 19 and 20 are coming. And you can see it all over this sketch. Just bodily functions. Isn't that hilarious to me? No. And so that chunk right there, I would love to know exactly what the Comedy Central hour-long repeat looks like. Because this episode is a banger in repeat form. But then you get the Sinead stuff, you get Professor Poopy Butt, and you're just like, well, all right, well, it is SNL. It's so rare that we can carry it all the way to the end of the night, just hitting it out of the park. So, but yeah, I do wonder how many people voted on this, on just the memory, the idea of the rerun that we all saw so many times.
Yes, appreciate the Rick and Morty reference there too, Andrew. Yeah, but I agree with both of you. I think we've kind of reached a lull in the night, but we do end on a very interesting piece. And there's a reason that it's an interesting piece, where we get Walken singing the Boulevard of Broken Balls. Now, he's just singing about getting crabs and, loving your wife, and then she stabs you with a butcher knife and things like that. Now, Andrew, is this a voice that you recognize that we're talking about here?
Oh, would this be the last sketch for one Mr. Michael O'Donoghue?
That would be correct, sir.
Yeah, I've always wondered how this one came about, if he actually had submitted it recently, or it was one that they had just had laying around, or it was something that got cut from Christopher's first episode that he really wanted to, like, no, I really want to do that song again. Always interested on how this came to be, because Michael was very much not a part of the show anymore.
Right. And we're only about 2 years out from him sadly passing away at a very early age. So is this something sitting in a bin, Mike, do you think?
I think the second opinion that Andrew gave is probably the correct one, that maybe he did pitch it before and then it's like, okay, well, this is Walken's back. Maybe this will be the last time. Of course, it was not, but they could put on there. And his wife, Cheryl Hardwick, was still with the show. She wrote that with him. She was a co-musical director with G. Smith. And so it was kicking around, and it's a 10-1, probably like, oh, this will get cut if we have no more time. The Continental goes, 11 minutes, we'll cut it, but they fit it in, and it ends up being definitely more of a moment than a funny sketch. But there's some good lines in there, I will say that. But it's very O'Donoghue. It's a little forgettable, but then I remember watching it before this rewatch and being like, oh yeah, this is like this something special about this sketch that I have to look it up.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is, knowing now what we know, and that this would indeed be the last time we hear his voice on the show, gives it a little more melancholy feel. Obviously, it's not something that's laugh out loud funny, but there are some good lines here. So overall, Mike, what are your thoughts as we have number 34 here at Walken? Is too high, too low?
I think this is an appropriate spot. I mean, we mentioned we saw one Walken already, so if we see a third, then come back to me. But this is a very interesting era of SNL. Season 18. There's no Farley. He was in rehab, I believe, for the first time. There's no Mike Myers. He's on leave. We see Dana only in the cold open. So we do see that those bad boys kind of getting their foot in the door and leaving it open. And we see Jan come back after she had just left, very recently, 18 months prior. So with that being said, having Walken, I think this is a cementing legacy episode for him. And on rewatch, it's very strong. We have a good pre-tape in there and just good performances. So I think the Continental, the monologue, the cold open right away makes it a good episode. And then you look at like the lower card sketches that are actually strong, makes it good. I mean, I think I had it on my ballot, if I believe. I don't know my results. I didn't ask for the form to be submitted back to me, so I have no idea what my votes were. But I think this is my favorite walk-in, so I did put it on there. And, a lot of people remember this episode, so I think 34 is appropriate, Bill. You?
I do as well. Andrew, I want to get your opinions on this first. What do you think about Walken being here at 34?
Oh, I can't say much more than what Mike said. I think he wrapped it up pretty nicely. This makes sense. Not knowing the rest of the list, this to me feels like a good placement for this episode. It's a fascinating look into this very tumultuous period of the show where it's kind of in chaos, in transition, but it can still bat out a really mostly strong episode. But boy, that last chunk can take the wind out of your sails a little bit. So, but that's SNL.
Yeah,
the beast.
Yes, exactly. I think the pre-update is just all-timer for sure. And then we do get some good stuff after that in Stock Talk and It's Pat. And a great musical performance, as we've already said. So I feel like this is a good place for this. Let's see if we think the same thing for number 33 as we get into finally one of the things that we have not seen at this point on the list is the original era, the golden era from 75 to 80. And we finally get that, boys. One of my favorite episodes of all time. And it'll be interesting to dive into if it's a greatest episode of all time. I'm talking about number 33, Mr. Charles Grodin and Paul Simon with this Persuasions, special guest appearance by Art Garfunkel. October 29th, 1977, season 3, episode 4. Andrew, this is an era that you're fond of. What do you think of Charles Grodin and his only appearance on SNL?
This as we say, the show rarely ever gets perfect, but this is one that I really feel is one of the closest. And also intriguingly, it just runs kayfabe throughout the entire episode and commits to it. And to the point where still decades later, people thought that this episode was real, that Grodin had been banned, even though they give it up in the good nights. All you have to do is just watch the episode. Just in general, you're kind of a fool if you think this is all real. But got to give credit to the episode that it does commit so hard that it does. And I think it's funny that like the show has kind of done that idea of, the host has shown up and they haven't been in rehearsal. Like they do that with the opening of like Lily Tomlin season 2 premiere. I think they do that with Ralph Nader as well. But they drop it, they drop it after that, after the monologue or whatever. This is the first time where the show, completely commits to it. And I would say only this, obviously the Francis Ford Coppola, George Wendt episode, front to back keeps up with the entire thing. And even though it's more of like a tone piece, I would say also the Luis Lasser episode is a full commitment to the entire episode, having an overriding sense of unreality to it. Other episodes would do that, the Gary Shandling, Jason Patrick would try. You got the Robert Klein with the Atomic Lobsters, but those are always like sections of the show. This is front to back, stem to stern. They commit to it, and top 5 Love this episode. I was blown away when I first saw this.
Yes, very well put, Andrew. I think this is very interesting. And when we yearn for old SNL, I think this is one of those things. If they could do this every 5 or 6 years, just throw it in there. There's plenty of people that you could do something like this with. Like, Adam Driver would be a good one to try this with, or something along that lines. Mike, are you a fan of this? This predates you by quite a bit. Are you a fan of Grodin? Were you familiar with him before you started watching SNL?
Before I started watching SNL, I'm sure I was because of the Beethoven franchise. So I'm sure I knew who Grodin was.
Yes.
Me and Chuck go way back. Couple St. Bernards later, when I started watching SNL, then yes, this is one of my all-time favorites. So I was very pleased, not only that it was in the 50, because as we've been mentioning, we could get all the way to number 1, and where's Grodin? But here we are. It's at 33. So I'm just happy to talk about it and happy to be on the show with you guys to talk about it, because this is season 3, episode 4. This is October of 77. So we're now in, we've done 2 seasons, and Chevy has left and Bill has come in, and this is episode 50 of the series. So it's kind of like, at this point, the framework of SNL that we know and love is established that you can do a concept episode. So it's pretty ripe, and they got the best guy to do it, and Chuck Grodin. I like how they call him Chuck all night. Whereas they, this could be a big swing and a miss with somebody else, but the synergy was working, and it's definitely in my top 10. When I did my ballot, I think I voted for the first episode and Grodin first. Those are my first 2 picks, and okay, I'm going to go down the list and make sure I fill in the other must-haves, and then I think I voted for like 200 episodes, and I was like, I have to pick just 50. I got to go back and take out a lot. I thought I was just nominating all of my favorite episodes, but this one was easily like first or second vote for me, and I'm so happy it's here, because if you haven't seen it, it's a must-watch SNL episode. So I would say that for a lot of good episodes, maybe, but if you're looking at the list that we're cultivating here of 50 episodes of SNL that are must-watch, then this would be one of the first I mentioned. 50 best, it would also be one of the ones I mentioned. So it's a good place to start.
Yeah, I'm such a huge fan of this, and I'm a big fan of old Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and Grodin was up there as far as the guests that would come on and give Johnny a hard time. He always came on. There was this very strange synergy between them. He was always kind of playing a role, and I think other than Don Rickles on Carson, this was somebody else that would just come in every time and not talk about what he was supposed to talk about, not stick to the script. And we see that here. So I think with this one, even though there are some iconic sketches, perhaps because of the nature of this episode, I think we should just start from the beginning, if that's okay with you guys. We start backstage, and those old lockers, how much I love those. And we get Belushi and Gilda talking about how Chuck hasn't been here all week, and how's he going to even go on? And he's supposed to go on and do the monologue in just 10 seconds, and finally shows up with all the gifts for everybody, and he almost forgot Garrett. And Andrew, what do you think of this cold open backstage?
Now, I will say this is the only one I did not rewatch before we came on to do this. One, because I already love this episode, and 2, because it just, I love this episode, so I don't want to overwatch it. And so the thing is, I will not be able to cull very specific lines and beats, but I do love how this into the monologue just sets up the entire idea. And just if you are, and as you kind of point out, Bill, audiences in 1990 or 1977 would have been aware of the Grodin persona. But this works, especially for somebody watching it, however later that they are, to just establish that tone for the night and the idea, and just hammer it in on what Chuck is going to bring to the show.
Yeah, Mike, I find these interesting where, this whole concept of kind of mixing it in with sports, where we would get these backstage cold opens. Not something we've really seen a lot of since the original era. What did you think when you saw Chuck come in all befuddled?
Well, I loved how Gilda's reasoning was because, well, he's from Massachusetts, so as a masshole myself, I was like, am I supposed to bring gifts everywhere I go? I didn't know I got that
Yes.
memo. That was the reason that he was shopping all day. He missed dress rehearsal. So that is the runner, is that he missed dress rehearsal, which no host has ever done. He's not a TV guy. He's not like us. He doesn't smoke dope, which is what Belushi says. That he's worried about him coming in.
Says.
Yep.
Yes.
And so I love Bill that they do this back in the day. So I didn't have my watch old SNL and the golden era. I miss that because now we get excited for the backstage monologue where it's a song and dance like the walk-in one we just talked about, where they used to do these, like, literally they were cold opens. They just open and it's the cast and they're getting ready for the show, or it's in Lauren's office. So the fact that they bring the host into it and go straight to the monologue, even better. So I love the way it starts, and you can't have this episode without this cold open. So it's really pivotal, integral to the whole show to set this tone immediately, and then have Chuck walk on for his monologue and just not know what the hell's going on.
Yes. Yeah. And the monologue, there's not much to say there other than he keeps calling them skits, which, we'll let that one go, Chuck. Maybe that's part of the persona as well. I will say this is one of my favorite opening credits sequences of all time. I love the Times Square with the marquee. And this is, I think, one of the first times they use it in full. So,
I was about to say they change it like all throughout the season.
So quickly. Yeah. It was all the time. And then we get a quick thing. I'm a huge fan of Update in this season because they're playing with the concept, playing with the structure of it. And we get a Weekend Update promo with Danny Aykroyd on the plane, getting ready for Weekend Update. And it's silliness. It's quick. It's in, it's out. Mike, do you like how he has no paper in the typewriter? And do you know what a typewriter is?
Yeah, of course I do. I had forgotten this hook. So as far as like this episode being so loved, it still got me when they zoom in and he's got no paper in the typewriter. He's on the plane, ripping butts, just typing away, clack clack clack, and there's no paper. So he works around the clock. He's an award-winning newsman, Danny Aykroyd. So and it just makes me yearn for those quick hits, because SNL would do, we mentioned the Continental being 9 minutes 15 seconds, but they would do so much varied things. The commercial ads would be commercial length. They'd be 30-second spots, where now it's a whole production, which they do a great job nowadays. But back then, that you could see 1, 2, 3 of these, all the way from Jam It All to whatever they had. All those different things. So I loved seeing this because it was not only meta in an already meta show, but it was a good gag that got me, from 1977. So I appreciated it.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm a huge fan of this era with the Update. I know you love Jane as well. Danny has his moments, and especially early on, I think he's really thrown himself into it. And we kind of get a feeling for that here, right?
His year is so strange, but I would say, just overall, this is a strong Dan episode, and just one of the ones where it's a strong Dan Update persona episode as well. And yeah, like Mike says, I like that this is just an in and out joke. It plays the length of a commercial. And it again creates the world, the unreality of the idea of Saturday Night Live here. And I like how the show kind of dips in and out of that, not only in this episode, but throughout this era of what is real and what isn't in terms of the show.
Yeah, and we'll get into it when we get to Update, but I feel like somewhere a young Will Ferrell was watching this season and maybe this episode and going, I'm going to make a movie about this someday, because you've got the whole award-winning, team. It's not just the anchors. They open on Update that way, and then you also get these promos, which were a very real thing if you were watching local TV back then. with the, he goes out on the beat and he tries to find the stories. And, that I don't think that's something we really see these days with the way that news is, even local news.
I think you still see those consumer probe-esque advertisements every so often.
Yeah. But this is the dawn of that time. So I think that's really interesting. Next, we get the Coneheads, which, people were upset when Kate came back off of the alien ship. The Coneheads had gone back to their planet, I believe, in the last one, but they're back, and it's Halloween time. So I think this is one of the better installments. Andrew, are you a fan of the Coneheads?
I am a fan of the Coneheads, and as you say, stepping into this season, the idea was indeed that the Conehead sketches were done. They did a big finale in season 2, and that was supposed to be it. We are 4 episodes in, and we're bringing them back, but this time it's for Halloween, and I can't be mad at that. So yeah, this is a real, just a solid, straight down the middle type of Coneheads. I don't think there's a lot specifically amazing to point out. It's just a good outing of the Coneheads.
Mike, when kids come to your door in Massachusetts, do you give them fried chicken embryos?
No, just the beer. I mean, I did have a beer bucket on my porch this Halloween. And I did, in fairness, I put a sign on it that said for adults only. I drew a little jack-o'-lantern for fun. But that's just, that's mass culture, is that, that whole thing. So no embryos. But I think this Coneheads is kind of I think, Andrew, you might say straight down the middle. It's, if you want to show someone Coneheads, like, this is kind of the way to do it. There's no backstory really mentioned. Mm-hmm. And you have Bill coming in as the neighbor, Bill Murray, not Bill Kenny. And then you have, you have Connie. She wants to go to a Halloween party, and Bob for apples. So hilarity ensues with describing what that is to a Conehead. And it's just like, it's all good fun. And it's also not too long. I feel like some Coneheads were like, okay, we get it. So I like this one a lot, honestly.
Yeah, me too. I feel like this is one of the better installments, and Billy definitely brings an energy to it when he's talking about the vegetable orb pie. He already had a couple slices before he came over. So, but yeah, we get no Chuck here, but we do get him in this kind of the beginning of the next part of the runner here with Chuck's film. He takes way too long to set it up, and they cut to this movie that he's in. And none of the exciting stuff happens. So now he's got his nose out of joint on top of not knowing what's going on.
This episode and all the stuff with Chuck, really, Charles, really brings in the anti-comedy vibes that kind of gives, like, if there were ever to be an Andy Kaufman hosted episode of SNL, it would look like this. And also the Andy Kaufman episodes of Fridays very much resemble this. So if you like this episode, also go check out the Andy Kaufman Fridays episodes. And so, yeah, this one always makes me laugh. The long wind up to the incredible chase scene that we're going to show you now. And then it's just footage of a man running across the street, getting into a car. And that's all the time we have. And it kills me every single time as he's just dumbfounded. Like, wait, what? That's what I'm here for. I love it.
I love it. Yeah, we rarely get movie clips of any sort on SNL, so I think this is really interesting that we get anything. But yeah, it definitely just peters out and kind of leads into some of the jokes that we get later on. Next, we got Paul Simon, one of my favorites. I know he doesn't work for everybody, but I think this is a great Slip Sliding Away, number 5 song at the time, and he performs later on with the Persuasions. He sings "You're Kind." And of course, we get him with Chuck a little bit later as well, but we'll get into that in a minute. But I want to talk about Consumer Probe, Mike. So this is the second of 3. We got the Candice Bergen one. It's the first time we get Jane in the host role for this. Second of 7 times we get Erwin Mainway. So very interesting. It's the debut of Joan Face. which is fun as well. Are you a fan of the way that they set up this consumer probe for Halloween?
Yeah, it's perfect. It should be in every Halloween best of, where we have Dan playing Erwin Mainway, showing costumes that he sells for children that are far too dangerous, including the invisible man, the invisible
Invisible
pedestrian.
pedestrian.
Yeah,
Pedestrian,
and
yes.
like Johnny Human Torch to just rags and oil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is as peak as it gets. We have Jane and Dan. That's it. That's all you need, and it's perfect Aykroyd. So I'm a huge Aykroyd guy. So I love this one, and was happy to see it for the 10th time. I don't care. I'll watch it again tonight. Every costume, by the way, is equally as funny. There's no really dip.
Yes, and invisible pedestrian. Remember, it's not for blind kids.
No, it is not.
Andrew, I know that they can run recurring characters into the ground, even in this era, maybe especially in this era for certain scenarios. But Erwin kind of works again here, even though the Christmas one is iconic. I think it works here too because we have a different perspective with Halloween.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that, I mean, I think they did 7 of these, there's abouts. I don't think anyone fails. These are all great to me. It's wonderful that we now get Jane in there, who is just really makes them sing, even though the Christmas one, the first one, might still be the best. I don't know. They're all so good to me. And Invisible Pedestrian is as good of a joke as ever. It still kills in 2025. And Dan, just again, great episode for Dan. We've already done the Coneheads. Now we're into Erwin Mainway, and we're just great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah, no duds here for sure so far, and now we get another quick hit with Anyone Can Host, which will be coming up in about a month and a half. And we get Mr. Mike and Billy Murray sitting here talking about it. I love O'Donoghue's performance here as he's just parsing through these, uneven margin.
Ripping them up.
26 words. Oh, one too many. And then we get Samurai. So this is, no Buck Henry here, but Chuck is here to kind of give us a different feel for this. Mike, what do you think of Charles Grodin filling in for Buck Henry and the angle that he takes this at?
Well, I think that's part of it. That if you haven't seen Buck Henry do it before, it might not be as funny, and I wouldn't blame you. But having Grodin finally return, because we talked about Coneheads, and then we talked about Danny and Jane sketch, and so of course we saw the film clip thing, which is just Grodin. And by the way, that also becomes a runner because there's like friction between Grodin and the show and Lorne, because Lorne speaks to him and says it's too long, and he's like, oh, I'm later on he says he's gonna do a song, and I didn't get to do my film clips, I'm gonna do a song. So that's also an important runner on the runner. So I have to mention that before we get to that point in the show. But in this case, having him do an established piece, we're gonna talk about bees later, of course, but having him do Samurai and being fish out of water there is just kind of the first instance of like, oh, this guy actually did not go to rehearsal. This is a real thing. So I like that they did Samurai here because it was a familiar thing to have Grodin be in. So it works for me. The jokes themselves, I've seen a million of these Samurai things, at this point. I mean, right now we're at, it's the 10th one or the 11th one. So they didn't really kind of bring the heat on that, but the whole point was that it was Grodin who didn't know his lines. He's reading Belushi's lines in the phonetic Japanese, which is kind of the point too. So I mean, it's really more of a concept again than a sketch, which is the whole point of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I love Gilda trying to rein Grodin in the whole time, trying to shush him. Andrew, this is such a great turn for a Samurai after so many that we've already gotten.
Yeah, it kind of like the it's Pat in the last episode. It's like this is just the right time to. We've done enough of these. The audience is clear enough on all the beats that we can have somebody go in there and completely combust it. And so, yeah, I love just the idea that all of the Japanese ramblings are phonetically spelled out on the cue cards as he's squinting at them, like, wait, no, that's for John. He's like, oh yeah, John, this is great. I love this. This is a great bit. Uh, and it's just a great way to continue to sell the kayfabe of the night, with John getting angry at the very end and then smashing the table, the counter in front of him. And so it kind of reintroduces the idea and amps it up yet again as we continue to pile on the concepts of the night. Now John is getting pissed off.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that'll lead to something later on in the episode for sure. Then we get Weekend Update, and as I said, it's this team feeling where they're trying to include everybody here, and so we get a lot of different people included in this, a lot of different cast. Gilda as the dancing N, which I don't know how many people know that, but it's public knowledge, obviously now. Bill Murray comes in and does his third of Stargazers. I love the news for the silent movie buff that we get here. And then we get Garrett as well doing Lieutenant Willard Jackson. Andrew, where should we start with Weekend Update?
I will say, just from the things I kind of recall from this update, is that I do think that news for the silent movie buff is probably the best part of Dan's entire run of on updates. And I think it's just because Dan, much like a lot of performers like him, just not quite comfortable in his own skin and likes to play characters, does well in front of the camera as a character. And so this kind of goofery allows Dan to succeed at the desk doing a little bit. And also just looking at the screen, I know that Lieutenant Willard Jackson thing is crazy. I swear that's like a Michael O'Donoghue written thing, and I'm trying to recall some of the beats of it, but I remember it being wild.
Basically, he found Jimmy Hoffa's bones, but they're actually like dinosaur bones or something like that.
Yes.
I think.
Okay, yeah, okay. There's other details in it that's like, what? This is crazy.
Mike, anything stand out here? I mean, I'm a big fan of Stargazer, and I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel.
Yeah, you're entitled to that. I mean, we do get a solo Billy Murray piece on one-man shows before Garrett, but really it's the sum of the parts. It's really the fact that you go back and it's Gilda, sorry, not Gilda, Jane and Danny doing update in season 3, and they're just kind of like fucking with what update is. So you have these kind of like micro segments in there. They're not doing street segments with Lorraine outside the hotel. They're not doing but they're doing things at the desk, which I feel like Che and Jost have kind of picked up a little bit recently. So it's been kind of good to see them do their own micro segments. So back then you see, okay, well, they don't even know like what this could be. So when you mentioned the silent movie buffs thing, that's what made me think of that.
Yeah, and if you go back to the season premiere of this episode, it's clear that they drop it very quickly, but they are trying to make it feel more like a newscast, and everybody has their own separate, like, you're the weather person, Bill is the celebrity person, you do this, and they break that very, very quickly. But yeah, it kind of still permeates throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting idea that I wish they had kind of stuck with.
I do too. And one of those nerdy things that I really love is that they're playing around with green screen. Now, it's been around for a bit, but they're really, instead of having the square box, television shaped box behind the anchor, they're making the whole screen behind them about the story. And that's something that newscasts were doing at the same time at that time as well. They're playing with the technology that was kind of becoming more available. And I really enjoyed that part of it. It makes it a very different feel from a lot of other update years that we get. Then we get, as I said, Paul Simon. We get him back with Simon and Garfunkel, and Grodin is in the worst Art Garfunkel wig we've ever seen. Doesn't know any of the words because
I thought it was a pretty good wig, to be honest. He looked just
really?
like him.
You thought it was good?
I think it works for like maybe a couple seconds. You would go,
Yeah.
"Oh wait, what?" Especially on a maybe 1977 television screen, you'd go, "Wait, what?" But then you hear,
If
then
you're
you hear
tall
Charles.
enough, if you're tall enough, wearing a collared shirt with a sweater over it with that wig, it passes.
And while we're talking about that, why is he wearing the same thing the entire night? Is it because he is not
He doesn't
wearing where
care.
he's supposed to be,
He's not
or,
even in the show. He was there to do a song, and he was there to show his clip, and that's all he wanted to
That's
do.
Yes.
So yeah, I love that. Yeah, he never changes.
Never changes for any of the sketches. But yeah, I mean, Paul being the straight man here, like, why are we doing this? I don't know. I don't have a lot to do. So, and then we get the Art Garfunkel walk on, which is strange because Paul leaves the stage. You know, who knows where they were in their relationship at this point, but they've already reunited on SNL. So, but it's very jarring to see that they're not on stage at the same time.
Paul Simon literally walks off, takes his guitar off. Like, is he gonna grab another guitar? Like, no, he just leaves before Art enters.
Yeah. But I think this is a pretty good piece, Andrew.
This is my favorite part of the night. Charles Grodin singing Bridge Over Troubled Water, completely screwing it up, and then listening to the playback on the main stage is one of the dumbest long walks that I can't believe they had the balls to put on air. It is so stupid. I love it so much. And I love that. Yeah, it just continues the idea. Chuck is like, I'm not in the show, so we're gonna do this. And it's just, I love it. I love it so much. It's so hilarious.
Yeah, and Art's part is great, Mike. Right? I mean, he comes out, he banters with Grodin, and then eventually takes the wig, which apparently you like. So,
Well, I just mean that when they open the frame and you see them, like, you know, it at least gives you the illusion that they're doing a sketch like this. So, of course, it plays into the runner, and then Garfunkel coming in kind of is the button that makes it. And so, you know, maybe if the real Garfunkel sang with the real Paul Simon, it would have been like an iconic moment in an iconic episode. That didn't happen, but I think it definitely works. And Chuck Grodin just being like bitter at this point is why it's funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And he continues his bitterness into the next sketch. We get the 17th installment of the Killer Bees out of 19. We're coming up on the end here.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, he breaks character once again, Mike. And Belushi just loses his shit, right?
Yeah, this is basically the culmination. This is the apex, the pinnacle, the climax of the Grodin bit. Is having, of course, you have the bees, which is already tired, and the cast has already mentioned in sketches that they're sick of it in previous episodes. And now you have Belushi with the rant of all rants, piggybacking off the cold open and his resentment towards the host, where, you know, he's like, you know, I'm a professional, and you know, I'm sick of the B sketch, and I still show up and I know my lines, and you know, whatever. So this is it, where we've had previous B sketches where it's broken down, but this is like the B of all B's, Bill.
Yes, I'll give it a B plus. Andrew, you know, the Grodin stuff is great here, but one of my favorite parts of this is when they start talking about if they're real bees, and they have this massive debate between Bill Murray and Danny and Belushi, whether or not they're actually insects.
Right. And that again plays with just the idea of what is reality here. And also I think it's a beat they do often, but when Belushi is ranting and Grodin is just staring at the little bobbly bit on the thing, is just like not even paying attention. Just distracted.
He's like moving with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And yeah, I mean, with an episode like this, I mean, you're going to have to do the bees in there because they are the delivery service of meta for the show, generally up until this point. And so, yeah, you had to do this here, and why not have this be the breaking point? I don't know if it's not directly after this, but somewhere in the next clutch of episodes, they do an audience gag. And it's just a close up on Charles Grodin sitting in the audience. And it's like this week's host. So I love that we kind of just completely break the episode into here. And now Charles is just like, whatever. I'm just going to go watch the episode from the audience mostly until he's back for the last sketch.
Which would have been better if that was his night. I think I know that's a hot take, but he is in the last sketch, and it would have been a lot funnier if it hit that pinnacle. And then that sketch blows up, and then it's just like, you know what? Just go watch the show, Chuck. We'll take it from here.
Yeah. That comes after Professional School of Football. So yeah, it is right towards the very end. But yeah, it would have been better not even having it on stage for good nights and just kind of ending it there. So we've talked about a lot of iconic moments, sketches that we've seen through the years, Coneheads and Bees and Samurai. Here's the start of just an incredible piece with Gilda. Only does it twice, but this is the one that's most remembered from all her best of Gildas and things like that. This is Judy Miller. It's a one-hander. Mike, how great is Gilda here?
Gilda is fantastic, but this might be a little bit of a third rail because you can't say anything bad about Gilda, but like I'm not a Judy Miller fan. So if that is a hot take and I need to be excommunicated from the community, then so be it. But rewatching this, I was like, I want to get to, get to Rosanna Dana right now because I don't know, Bill. I mean, tell me why her performance is good, but like, I didn't find the sketch funny and, please shit on me in the comments. I don't know.
I think one of the things for me is, and I've appreciated more over the years is, and you have a very little one, but like someday there'll be a teenager in their room bouncing off the walls. I have a teenager bouncing off her walls on a nightly basis. And this is something you can relate to. You don't know the conversation that's happening in there, but in their imagination and what they're doing in that room as they throw themselves against the wall and they have these great tea parties and things like that. I think that's the part over the years that's grown on me. But
it's a great performance, and it's the authenticity makes it because it's literally just
a teenager.
But, yeah, I was like,
this is a child.
She's a young girl here.
Well, she's in the Girl Scouts. Yeah. She's got to be what, 8 or 9?
8? I would say around 8.
Andrew, please help me out here. Mike's horrible take.
I'm in between.
Horrible take.
I do think it is slightly overrated. I think it's not well served in this episode. Is the thing. It is, and it just doesn't feel correct here in the middle of the Charles Grodin episode for some reason. But I like it. I mean, it's a Marilyn Suzanne Miller written sketch, and just Gilda gives it her all. I think she had cracked her ribs and dress, slamming up against the door as well. So she's again giving it 110%, and just throwing herself all around the set. Do I think it's laugh out loud funny? No, but that goes hand in hand with Marilyn Suzanne Miller things. It's more of a look into a slice of life. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know. It's the 6 of one, half dozen of the other. A little bit overrated. I still really enjoy it. And it is, I will say, I don't think it ever needed another go at it, though. They really should have kept it as just the one Judy Miller. But yeah, just overall, a weird selection for this episode, I would say.
I think one of the problems is because a sketch like this has been shown so many times in so many clip shows and so many different best ofs, that it does lose something. You've seen it 300 times if you're an SNL fan. So I get that part of it. But yeah, I think this is just showing Gilda at her very best as far as what she's able to do. And the fact that she does it all alone. I mean, other than Jane's voice out in the open. But then we get this strange piece with the Professional School of Football. Kind of a dud, but it's quick. It's in and out.
Yeah, very season 1
Yeah.
esque sketch, and very much we got to give Garrett something type of selection for the night beyond Lieutenant Willard Jackson, but it does feel like a little bit of time filler.
Yeah. But then we end the night on iconic for a debut of a character in Hire the Incompetent. Very, very Stefan like, not starting at the update desk. We get the debut of Rosanna Dana, which they'll only do a couple times, Andrew, right?
Yeah, they sure do. Only a couple times.
16 more times, Bill.
Oh my God.
And we complain about a second Lisa from Temecula, right? Like
they should have. It's like, oh wow, 2 Judy Millers. That's too much. Oh, boy. Yeah, this one is fun. A nice way to wrap up the night. I love the sight gag of the words "hire the incompetent" as the final sort of last shot of the show, as Grodin is kind of looking like as if he can see the words on the plastered in front of him, and he's like, "Hire the incompetent." What? Yeah, another one that feels a little bit sort of underwritten, kind of tossed together, but yeah, I really enjoy this. A good way to go out, but yeah, I think if they placed it earlier and then maybe ended on Judy Miller and had Chuck in the audience chilling, and maybe Judy Miller as like the last sketch would make it feel a little bit more make more sense. And this, just kind of like the show is just completely falling apart. Let Gilda do her solo thing.
right.
I don't know, maybe way overthinking it, but
No,
that's what I do.
I think that's very fair. Mike, you seemed excited to talk about Roseanne, so let's.
Well, that was my take. He said it both. Is that the Stefan reference because of bringing a character that was the best part of a sketch and saying, hey, let's put them on update and then see what happens, and becomes like a phenomenon that goes on and on and on, for better or worse. And that I think the Chuck runner is a little bit diluted by making him do a more sketch, because I feel like we got to that point where like, okay, you're done, you're in timeout. So that having Judy Miller finish the show would actually be a great call, because it's just Gilda, and Gilda's phenomenal in that sketch. So that's my take. You've already said it.
Although we do get that last fourth wall breaking moment where he asks if there's time for his song. So, I mean, we do get that.
Yeah, we get the song. We do get the song, Bill.
We get the song. So,
you finally clinch on the song, and it's so stupid. And he's like,
my
that's
God.
I would have liked him to do the song like with the bees on set. Just be like, all right, you know what? I'm doing my song.
Screw you guys. I'm doing the song. But overall, I mean, I think, especially talking through this, like, what an episode, Andrew. Is this the right placement for something like a Grodin?
in my heart of hearts, no. This is a top 10 easily. And I think it's just because of the wide swath of people watching the show, and not everybody goes back to these earlier seasons. They can maybe seem overrated or overdone, and so you haven't seen this episode or whatever. I think, yeah, top 10 for me. Like, this is the rare 5 out of 5. So and no other episode in this conversation tonight is going to get any close to that. Maybe 4 for the Christopher Walken Arrested Development, but yeah, this is a 5 out of 5. Absolutely love this episode.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that, Mike. This is one of those episodes you mentioned the first episode. I think this would be top 5 for people who like episodes people would remember who hadn't watched all the way through. That would go back to the original era. I mean, are you? I think you're as big a fan as we are on this, right?
Yes, and if you talk to people who were watching it, maybe if you were in your living room in the 70s and were watching SNL week to week, and maybe you caught most of the episodes, if you saw the Grodin episode, I bet you'd be talking about it to your kids later about like, oh, there's an episode about about SNL. It's Grodin is doing this thing. And as Andrew mentioned at the top of the coverage here, that the legacy itself also gives it some leeway to be in every list. So for me, easily top 10. I'm sure there's some more iconic moments and episodes that could edge it out, but for me, it's top 10, at least top 15. But as I said, I'm just happy it's here. So
Mhm.
glad we talked about it.
Yeah, I'm finding that with a lot of these episodes. The Sigourney Weaver one, another one where I was pleasantly surprised that we even just get to sit and talk about it at this, so many years later, almost 50 years later. So let's jump through time here. We're going to jump 34 years into the time machine and go to one that I know our friend John Schneider is bummed not to talk about, and almost changed his wedding date just to be able to sit here and talk about his favorite cast member ever. We're going to go all the way to season 37, Jimmy Fallon and Michael Bublé, not Ham and Bublé, but Fallon and Bublé, December 17th, 2011. First time for Fallon to come back to the show. Christmas episode, a lot to get into here. Mike, initial thoughts as you see Fallon show up here.
This was one that I could remember watching so vividly, and when I was rewatching it, I had it on the screen, and my wife walked in, and she remembered the episode too. And I was like, "Okay, we were like." There's a point where I guess this is the Christmas episode of 2011, season 37. So I was like a freshman in college, where I might not have been watching live, but Christmas episode I might have been because I might have been home. Doesn't matter. But it's an episode that I will start with the positive, which is Jimmy Fallon is a host that should host Christmas episodes. And I will leave my coverage and my commentary for the sketches, but I will go to Andrew.
Yeah, so I was not watching the show at this point, so I don't have any nostalgia for this episode. Nor am I a Jimmy Fallon hater. I'm a Jimmy Fallon neutral, mostly. But of all the episodes, when I saw the rundown, when got the email and looked at the episodes, this was the one that really, the next two, honestly, really stuck out to me. Like, well, okay, the Jimmy Fallon Michael Bublé episode, I don't remember that really. And so, put it on and watched it. And I think it has a fairly strong start. Just that top row is a pretty strong stretch of stuff. And then it very quickly craters into stuff that I don't like from this era. And so I'm not, if you do like this era, I'm not trying to come at you or whatever. But this is the one where I was the most confounded of, like, we're talking greatest episodes of all time. I really don't understand why this one got in, personally. I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, I think it's fondly remembered. And I kind of agree with you, Andrew. Like this is one, and I don't want the Fallon people to come at me because I've said things about his time as a cast member. I think he is a very good host. And I mean, he's now hosting The Tonight Show. So obviously that's proven to be true. The joke that we've already talked about the Baldwin episode from season 24, where they mention a brand new Jimmy Fallon coming back and hosting on December 12th, 2011. So some of us feel that this was on purpose, even though they got the date wrong back in 1998. But this is a good way. I mean, he's already hosting late night, so he's becoming more popular as far as that goes. But yeah, there's some stuff here that just is not part of a 50th, 50 greatest episodes for sure. But let's get into it. Let's start from the beginning. Mike, I'll start with you. Being a Massachusetts guy, you must have been a huge fan of the Boston Teens. Were you excited when you saw this come back?
Well, for Boston folk like myself, there is a love-hate relationship with depictions of us because people get it wrong or they get it right, and we're very, very touchy about it. Where the Boston Teens,
both ways, if they get it right or wrong.
Oh yeah, everything in between. But there's like, it's a very tough accent to do, and it's a very the references have to be specific. But I think the Boston Teens has gotten a pass or been liked. So to see them do it at this point, I mean, Jimmy Fallon left after season 29, so that's like 03, 04, and now we're in December of 2011. So I felt like it was a ripe time, maybe a little bit overdue because of the NBC relationship, but Jimmy coming back and opening that way and having Dratch and having Polar, it was a perfect cold open. It was a feel good episode from start to finish. I don't think Jimmy really made a misstep all night. So if you're a Jimmy lover or hater, you can't really criticize him tonight, I don't think, but we'll find out from Andrew Dick. But
my problem is not with Jimmy.
Yeah, I think that the Boston Teens, seeing them now aged was the best kind of angle. They weren't just going back to the early aughts. They were doing like them at their appropriate age. So that kind of was a new take on it, at least. And it was a fun, like exciting way to kick off the show. So I did like it. And we still got a Nomar, and we still got like, the old references were still there, even though, Nomar was traded in July of 04.
And we've moved away from the R word, thankfully, and moved on to moron.
Yeah, Boston hasn't, by the way. So it still plays here.
Although we do get, I think we do get a flame retardant later, but we do not get the the inappropriate word. Andrew, you a fan of the Teens?
Oh yes, I love these, and they always work because, especially here, like, and I wish they would kind of do this every couple years in a weird way of like, they're one of the few SNL characters, reoccurring sketches where they can age up the characters, and it's fun to see where they're at in life again. And so that's what I think really makes this one pop. I think they do another one, we do another checkup a couple years down the line as well. And so I like how these work in that fashion, that you can age them up, and like, oh, well, that actually brings an interesting wrinkle into how we do this, how we do the same old beats. And so, perfectly, just a great way to start off the show. And you get Rachel, that's fine, good. We get Amy in there as well. And I do think I was kind of scanning back through the previous Christmas episodes of the time, and I do think this might have to be the first where the Christmas episodes become really jam-packed with cameos, and I'm not a huge fan of that. I was just that, not a couple months ago, me and Mike were talking about the Martin Short Christmas episode and how much I didn't like that one for the same case. And I was thinking halfway through this episode, I was like, would it be better if this was, in a sense, it was Michael Bublé doing double duty and all the cameos were there to support him, rather than it's Jimmy Fallon and also we have all the cameos. I don't know. There was, I guess, a different way to frame that stuff that might have made it work more for me. But I do get kind of annoyed. It feels kind of key jingling at a certain point of just like, oh, it's them, yay! And it's like, well, what are they doing? I don't know. Like, are they doing a funny thing though?
I understand that take, and I do appreciate the cameos of old cast members, and I think we get an all-time moment a little bit later in the show. Amy feels kind of shoehorned in here just to get an applause line. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the Boston Teens. We do get it one more time when their daughter goes off to college, Kate McKinnon. But yeah, the aging up is an interesting point, and we all have people from towns that we live in that they're stuck in high school no matter what age they are. So you can see somebody like these two trying to get into a high school party, high school dance, and still relive their glory days. So I think that's why this works a lot. The monologue is something we have to talk about. I mean, this is just one of the best monologues we get, especially in the modern era, I think. I'm going to start with Andrew on this.
Did we not just do this with Christopher Walken? This doesn't, this type of thing just never really, after years, decades of seeing variations on this, we go strolling down the hallway singing a song. I really don't get jazzed. It does not. It doesn't feel new or interesting or exciting to me. And maybe that's just because I'm a salty old dog, but I do feel it's just, I've seen it too many times. If maybe you were watching the show in 2011, hadn't seen it a lot, it would feel special, but that's not true for me. And so,
somewhere John Schneider's screaming. Mike,
good. Enjoy your wedding, fool.
Mike, what do you think of this monologue here? Am I right or is Andrew right?
Well, first of all, mazel's off to John. We love you. We miss you. You'll be back. But to Andrew and Bill's take, this goes back to my opening take here, is that this is like the warmest, fuzziest SNL you could put on your screen. So if that's your thing, then yeah, vote for this episode, and it's number 32 on our list. I know, I'm a spoiler alert. They do Rockefeller Center skating rink at the end, and Jimmy's wearing a bee costume, and he's coming home and singing "Baby Please Come Home," and the whole cast is there dancing, and it's Christmas, and it's like, oh, it feels so good, like New York Christmas. So I'm not hating on that personally, but I think that's probably why this is here, because we'll talk about. I do have some really good moments in this episode, so we'll get to them, but. That's my take on the monologue, really, Bill. It's just like it's very indicative of modern SNL trope. It's Christmas, it's alumni friends, and let's sprinkle them through. Let's decorate those cookies with alumni throughout.
Yeah, I get that. I think it's just one of those warm moments to me, especially if you're watching and you're getting ready to go on Christmas break or holiday break. And it's the last SNL you're going to get for a month. And they just kind of give you this really warm feeling as you go through this monologue. And I love, and maybe it's the nostalgia of seeing the cast from those times. So I think that's why Steve Martin one works for the cold open when all the cast is coming through and he's singing "Not Gonna Phone It In Tonight." We get to see Abby Elliott. We get to see Vanessa, Bill Hader and Andy dancing around. So there's something about remembering that era that's kind of a fun look back all these years later. But I get both your takes here.
And Bill, I want to ask you, this is 2011, so your memory might serve you better than mine would serve me, but was the take at this time, Jimmy Fallon being an NBC property and being like a face that we all knew post SNL, meaning that viewers would know him on NBC without having seen him on SNL, him being like the sketch breaker, was that a thing that he had acknowledged? Because in the monologue, he deprecates and says, "So many memories, Barry Gibb talk show, Debbie Downer, Cowbell. I laughed and ruined all those sketches." Like, was that his finally mea culpa, or was that already was he already acknowledging that on his show? I can't remember.
I think it was already being bandied about, but this is certainly one of the bigger moments that we get from him as far as recognizing how many times he had done that. But I mean, the jokes had been there obviously for a long time. Family Guy did it in the early 2000s with beating the hell out of Fallon for laughing in every sketch.
That's why a big reason why I stopped watching the show myself.
Yeah.
I'm very tired of the Fallon Sands shenanigans.
100%. Yeah. Which is why I don't really love him as a cast member, but I think when he's come back to host, he's kind of reined that in a big way. So
I think he's a great host, by the way.
I do too. I've got no problem with his hosting at all. So then we get into the Today with Hoda and Kathy Lee. The final time we get this, and maybe the forgotten one, because this is now the third Hoda Kotb. We've already had Michaela Watkins and Jenny Slate, and now Nassim takes it over for the only time. And this same joke every time, Andrew. I don't know. Is this something that worked for you when you were watching in real time, or you weren't watching?
No. Yeah, these actually the only times they honestly worked with me are with Michaela, and so yeah, at this point, it's well trod territory, and it's just the kind of sketch that they pull out for the Christmas episodes where it's like, oh, people will be tuning in this one, they haven't watched the show in years, So, here's something easy to kind of knock up that they might remember from a couple years ago. Like, oh, this is back. But I don't really have a lot to say about it now.
Yeah, Mike, I think one of the things that really doesn't work for me here, and I think Fallon is a good impressionist, but he's following in the shoes of Dana and Daryl doing incredible Regis Philbins. This is not a great impression for him. What do you think of Fallon here? Are you a fan of Kristen doing Kathy Lee?
I disagree. I think Jimmy does a very serviceable Regis here for the sketch. I think it's more than proficient in his appearance, and it makes sense to have Jimmy do Regis while we bid adieu to the fourth hour of today with a third Hoda. So I think it was fun. Bill, me and you have discussed the Galifianakis today's show before,
Yes.
and this is the last one, and it's kind of it's a fine sketch, and there's also some pretty good gems in there. So I would say that for maybe a weaker part of the episode, it doesn't lower the average too much. So I don't have a lot to say on it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think Kristen does a good job here. She gets a winning Charlie Sheen line in here. She drops and Twins, which was an early 2000s Coors Light campaign.
Yeah.
Like,
boy.
So there's a couple of fun lines here, but yeah, mostly I'm not loving it. As you said, the Zach one is so great. And I would say he's serviceable, but we're talking about the greatest episodes of all time. I don't think you can have a serviceable impression and make your way up this list, but we'll get into more of it here. We get a lot more impressions in the next sketch with Michael Bublé's Christmas duets. We get a lot of Fallon here doing Justin Bieber, Russell Brand, and Sting. We also get Kristen as Taylor Swift, which is funny in hindsight without any words. We get Abby as Kesha, Fred as Tom York from Radiohead, Jay as Kanye, Nassim as MIA, and Lady Gaga as a tree. So, Mike, this has to be one of the highlights of the night, right?
Yeah, I actually love this one. I remember it fondly airing, as I mentioned, back in that time of my life. And this one stands out to me. I can't remember, honestly, I don't rewatch a lot of this era because I lived it. So pardon me for not remembering the history as well as I remember the old history or the very recent that I do stats on. But this one is like a impression parade that I think might have been the catalyst for let's invest in this idea of the screen tests and the impressions, because this one's really, really good. And so I remember the Larry David or Martin Short playing Larry David and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown is like my favorite probably. You're a rat bastard, Charlie Brown. And that one is definitely one of my favorites with Bill Hader being Pacino and stuff. But this one right here, I think all the impressions really hit. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And Jimmy is great. I mean, his Sting is great. His Russell Brand is like really impressive. His body language is really good. And Fred Armisen as Tom York, just unbelievable. I mean, this is like one of my favorite Fred Armisen moments, I think, in history. And I'm a 90s white guy, so of course I love Radiohead. And his Tom York is like, I had never seen that take on Tom York. I'm like, yep, that's right. So I really liked it, Bill.
Well, no doubt. He just pulled up the episode where they were the musical guest performing the Kid A material. Yes. And that's like, he just captures Tom freaking out on stage from there. And it's like, oh, I know those moves. Yeah. And that's also my favorite part of this. These impression parades, I don't know. There's not strong enough of a core for me to really love them. They are just kind of like throw some jokes at the wall. And yeah, I think they're fine. They're serviceable. I think just because I was watching the show at that point, I do think the one from season 39 is a little bit better just because I don't know. I have that inch more nostalgia of I was actually watching then. But it's fine. But then we'll kind of go back to this in the Beethoven sketch, that kind of just a wheel of people. And it just doesn't always work for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Next, we get another impression, but this time from the Andy Samberg side. We're doing dressing room for the second time. We had seen this when Fallon was in the cast, and he had done Mick Jagger. Andy is now doing Fallon, and I don't know. You got either of you have anything to say about this one? I mean,
I liked this. This is one of the moments that really, I would say, if there is the defining moment of this episode, I thought this would be it, but I guess most people pointed to the Bublé Christmas duets. But yeah, there's, I think, a lot more on the bone here because of the dance between the two performers. And I think, not mistaken, I think Andy like even auditioned with the Jimmy Fallon impersonation, so we can finally bring that, full circle as Andy is about to exit the show. And yeah, I think it's fun. I enjoy this. It's I think it's less what's on the page and just the two performers going about the thing. And then obviously it's a throwback to the Jimmy Fallon Mick Jagger sketch that they did. So it is a a little bit of a reference, a little ding. Remember this?
yeah, I Mike, one of the things I like about this one is that Andy, who's famously not good at a lot of impressions, when they get to the Seinfeld one, he's like, no, we're not going to do that one.
Yeah, that really made it. There was also a moment when they tried to like literally and figuratively lean into the bit of doing the mirror. So that was fun. Victor in the chat said, it's cute. That's what I agree with. It's very a cute sketch. I can't tell if it's more of Jimmy coming back or Andy leaving. It could be a mixture of both, but it was just let's do a little fun thing here on a Christmas show. So again, I'm gonna keep going back to warm and fuzzy SNL is what we're getting tonight.
I'll be interested to know if either of you think the next one is cute. Holiday Party. We get the second of the Don't Make Me Sing Kristen Wiig character, but we've added the wrinkle of Jimmy Fallon not wanting to dance. So they're at a 1920s party, and that's basically it. Mike, what do you think of this one, Holiday Party?
Well, this one, let's call it what it is. It's a bad sketch, but I will say I do like the Kristen character the first time, and it's something that for some reason I do quote often at home with "Don't Make Me Sing." And it's funny because in this one they have, this happens to me a lot, especially around Christmas as a piano player, is like, Mike, play some Christmas songs, and I'm like, okay, whatever people want, but it's kind of that weird vibe of like, wait, do you like want to play the piano? And I'm like, I really don't. I really just want to drink and have fun. But this is the case of Kristen being Don't Make Me Sing, which I do like that character, by the way. But I think the the two-hander of Jimmy, Don't Make Me Dance, kind of killed it for me. It's just not really funny to have the second wacky character. If Jimmy had like an angry take or he was combative with Kristen, I think that would have been a cool version of that. Of someone to not follow her, but be like, no, I don't want you to sing. Like there was something here that they could have done. They didn't do it. And it was a very lazy take. So this is my low light of the night for sure. And it could have been better. So like, I don't hate that they did this, but it was weak for me. Andrew.
Well, the thing I noticed about half Jewish, half Italian, completely neurotic is that Fred would completely bring this idea back when he hosted the show many years later. That was really struck by the similarities of the idea there. No comment. And listen, I'm going to go take. I'm going to save everybody in chat here. I'm going to go take a little pee break. I'm going to go take a little smoke break. I'll let you two cover the rest of this episode until I come back. Hopefully I will be there for locker room, but I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
And now a moment from our sponsors. Bill?
I'll be back.
I think that's the first announcement we've ever had of someone.
Bill, don't make me pod.
Don't make me pause the pod, Mike. Yeah, I really do enjoy this piece by Fred. There's something about one man shows that are
Oh,
just.
so you're gonna completely skip like Andrew on the holiday party? No takes. Okay, all right, fair
Listen,
enough.
no, I will say this. I think I agree with pretty much everything you say here because it is one of those lines that kind of sticks with you. It's one of those things that you will say when I go to karaoke and don't make me sing. But yeah, I don't know, man. This one just falls so flat for me. It's, as you said, the same beats except for Fallon, and he doesn't really add anything to this. So yeah, let's move on to
Yeah,
Fred.
and he kind of kills Kristen's thing too.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
honestly.
Yeah.
So I guess I should renege on my take. It was I said Jimmy Fallon had no moments of bad host, and I think this is the only time that Jimmy was like, "Oh, you kind of the sketch would have probably been paint by numbers without you, and it would have worked at least serviceable." And now it doesn't. So yeah, let's move on to Fred Armisen because after Tom York and the holiday duets, this was a great Fred piece. I really enjoyed rewatching it. I love it.
Yeah, this is something that Family Guy did as well with the one man show, and there's just I don't know something about these shows that just seems so ridiculous to me. I know that there are some good ones out there, but
You ever seen a one man show or a one woman show?
I have not, and I
Okay.
really wanted to go see Cecily do one. I think a couple years ago, right after she left the show. So I think there's people. Lily Tomlin is somebody who could pull something like this off. But I think most of them fall in the vein of the character Fred is playing here.
And Farrell did it as Bush on Broadway.
Yes, I missed that one too. But yeah,
I remember I was in New York and I walked by the theater. I was seeing something else. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, I would have loved to seen that. I had the DVD at one point of him doing that show. But yeah, I think we're late in Fred's tenure here, but and there are some that don't love his later years. I think this is a pretty good one, Mike, right?
Yeah, this is as good as it gets for a Fred vehicle. Just having Fred do what Fred does. Nothing much else to say because if you are into that, then you will love this. If you're not into that, you will not like this. So I can't really repeat the jokes, but they kind of hit those beats like you mentioned in the Family Guy thing. It's like he's the janitor but cleaning the set before the stage, and he's easily the bathroom is behind the set, and it's like all those like bad theater things, which the next era of SNL like really digs into with the Cecily 80 Kate Anna Dresden head writer era of like lampooning theater tropes. So this is a Fred one that I really enjoy. So I have nothing bad to say about it at all. I'd rewatch it tonight, please.
Yeah, I don't either. A show that can only be described as 4 hours is a great review line.
And there's a good visual gag too, I think, of when they go ... enough, like that they cut out the quote
Yes.
to make the negativity hidden.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, you have that moment with Fred and Bill where is it because I was bad? And he just keeps repeating that line, and Bill is just looking off and not really knowing what to do. And eventually he shakes his head and don't interrupt me. and he says it a couple more times. So yeah, this is such a great moment for Fred. And I do like this one a lot. Next we get season greetings. Talk about never changing moment here. I don't know how many times they did this off the top of my head, Mike, but this was the return after 8 years, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry, it was 10th and final.
10th and final, yep.
Yeah, and this is significant only because we get Tracy, Horatio, and Catan back in the building, which we hadn't seen them to this point in the night. And it's a cute song. I don't know 10 times cute, but what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think for me, it's being a kid seeing it a bunch that I really do have a lot of affection for. I wish it was Christmas today. I did have, as a kid, being a piano player, my first ever keyboard was a PSR 180, which is the Yamaha that Catan is holding, and it has these buttons that have a lion roar, a monkey sound effect, an elephant, and like drums. And if you hit them, they do that. So when I saw that as a kid, I was like, I have that keyboard, and you can do that that song on the keyboard, which is cool. So that I love that aspect of it. So yeah, if you want to get the keyboard from that sketch, Yamaha PSR 180, it came out in like 95. You can get that and recreate that song. But I love having this back. It's the 10th and final. Bill, you know why it's the final one. I don't have to say it. But this is like Jimmy Fallon come back to host, saying, baby, please come home. And now he's doing this sketch. And of course, these three guys are in the building. So if they didn't do it, it wouldn't make sense. So I love the song, and I think it's like an underrated SNL lore. So I love it.
Yeah, I think this only works because of the nostalgia of bringing so many people from old SNL back. Obviously, it's one of the last times we'll see Horatio back on the show. He's lost a lot of weight. People are excited to see him, so it's probably the last time we'll say that too. So yeah, this is fine. Holly Jolly Christmas and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Bublé really dives into doing holiday songs here, which I'm always a fan of, Andrew. I don't know if you like to see that. When I know Paul McCartney doing it was a lot of fun as well. It's rare that we get somebody doing two Christmas songs, but I like this.
Yeah, that I agree as well. And it was noticed that in the second one, I was like, has Bublé been enjoying some drinks behind the scenes? He seems a little loosey goosey, but I'm fine with it. But and I think it adds to the show. This is the kind of just outside of the show doing this type of thing. It brings the right amount of Christmassy joy.
And Bublé is at his most Bubléist at this point in the show, in his career. I think a lot of people were obsessed with him at this point as far as his music, and just kind of transcending a different kind of music that we weren't getting at this time. So I'm not angry at it either. Weekend update. Boy, oh boy, we'll talk about my predictions at the end of the show. Really should have had does that orange idiot Trump show up on Weekend Update, no matter what the era is, because we would be a perfect 5 for 5 or 6 for 6, whatever week we're in here, because we start right out of the gate. We haven't even covered most of the modern era on these greatest episodes, but he comes up whether it's 1988 or 2011. He won't moderate the Republican debate because he learned others can talk. So, some things never change. But then we get two correspondence. Well, one correspondence piece and then an all-time moment here. Get in the Cage. This is the third of 6 we get of this, and we get special guest Jude Law. Andy doing his best Nicolas Cage impression. Are you a fan of the Cage, Andrew?
I'm okay with them. I don't love these probably as much as a lot of other people, but and I haven't revisited a lot of these, recently. So I feel like there were some good lines in this. Overall, this one got over. I don't know about the Jude cameo adding a lot. And so, that's another one of just like, cameos. But yeah, overall, I would say it's one of the more writerly part of the show. Like I do think there are some good nonsense lines out of Andy here. So agreeable, most agreeable.
And poor Paul Britton gets 5 seconds of screen time here. Mike, are you a fan of the Cage? And we were saying this is the third time we get to see this. He wants to be in Sherlock Holmes this time. So,
yeah, Get in the Cage is interesting because Nick Cage is on the next one, and they kept doing it. So that was interesting because a lot of times that's like the death of the impression is when the real person comes on there. But this one was it was fun. I mean, I as far as Andy Samberg's career, I think you think of Cage and Wahlberg as his like impressions, and so this was a fun one. Nothing really to add on Cage and Law. I mean, maybe if he had not come back since Ashley Simpson, but he did host again, I believe, or he returned before this, so it was not his first time back at the show.
Yeah. Our big moment on Update, though, comes after this, right? So we now have this whole kind of storyline of the the fights between the different update pairings. We've had different mentions of it throughout, people coming back like Amy Poehler and things like that. And we get this really hacky joke about toy drives at a strip club, and Fallon comes out to try to save Seth, and then we get this amazing moment where both Tina and Amy come out. They split off into pairs and do the jokes. Now the jokes are not great, but I think the buzzers make a lot, and I think the nostalgia of having the last 15 years of Update all sitting at the desk together. Andrew, I know this isn't your favorite Update era, right? But
Seth's fine. I have nothing against Seth beyond he's a little bit too shouty for me.
Yeah.
The sound the crowd makes when everybody finally wheels out onto that desk had to reconfigure Lorne Michaels. It is one of the loudest sounds I've ever heard in Studio 8H. And then it doesn't lead to a lot for me is the thing. It's fine. I get why people like it, but I can't say I really, beyond them improving the different buzzer sounds, the actual jokes here, I don't know, didn't really connect. So it is an interesting little microcosm of everybody's here. The crowd erupts into the biggest sound you've ever heard. And then can anybody remember a line?
This is such a great moment and a missed opportunity, Andrew, because I think the joke was the interplay between Seth and Amy and Tina and Jimmy, and a rivalry could be here. And they just didn't do that. They just did a joke swap, and it was fun and it was okay. But as you mentioned, and Bill mentioned earlier, them making up their own buzzers was funnier than the jokes. But I think much like Bill Murray at SNL 50 doing a ranking of the hosts, they could have had a little rat-a-tat-tat of who was a better pairing, or even mentioning that Amy and Tina were a pair.
Mm-hmm.
They never went there. So this was a big miss for a great moment, Bill.
Yeah, there could have been so much more. And as somebody who, I used to tape the Update segments off of Comedy Central because I at one point I wanted to collect them all, just because I'm such an Update fan. And so this was a huge moment for me to see all these people together, even if they're not necessarily my favorite Update anchors. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But yeah, I don't understand why they didn't do more here to feed into the storyline too. There could have been more about the fact that they were in these factions and how that came to be. But overall, a very warm and fuzzy moment, an Update.
Who's the better pairing, Bill? Jimmy and Tina or Seth and Amy?
Seth and Amy. Yeah.
Polarizing.
Yeah.
Seth and Amy.
Yeah.
Polarizing.
If you had said Tina and Amy, then that would be because I love Tina. I know some people don't, especially her later years, but I really am such a fan of Tina. And that
Andrew, you disagree?
With the Tina thing?
Well, just who's the better pair, really?
Oh, I think Seth and Amy for me over the 3 configurations of Update we can make here. That would be the one I go with overall. Yeah.
Well, Bill, let's get into the final appearance of Horatio Sands, shall we?
Yes. So we get another parade sketch. 2 in one night, folks. Wow. Can't beat it. We get Beethoven, and almost called him Beethoven, which is great and just tells you that we're 2 hours in here. But yeah, the idea of introducing the whole band, but the band is humongous, and there's some jokes that hit better than others, as we'll talk about here. But I think Fallon, this is one of his better performances of the night, because all he's doing is just kind of mugging and introducing these people. Andrew, anybody stick out of this group that he introduces?
No, this one just becomes white noise for me, and it feels endless. Is really the thing. It feels so long. I not much to say about this. I really don't like this this sketch format to begin with. As I kind of already said, just impression wheel stuff. Just doesn't really give me a lot to hang my hat on, and we go through so many people, and none of it really sticks out because they don't. It's just a gag, it's just a sight gag, and they go toodly doot, and so yeah, not a lot of it sticks out to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mike, I think this is the part of the night where rewatching this, I was like, yeah, this is a way too high episode for me. We've really kind of cratered here. Anything in particular that you like about this one?
Well, I think the sketch works. I mean, on the surface level of writing the sketch and doing a sketch live, it worked. So I will give that the credit it deserves, especially with the talent in the room and doing that and bring people back and doing a sight gag. It's fine with me. And I also think Jimmy was great in it. So that's a hot take then, hot take. But Jimmy as Beethoven and doing those gags, it's a very perfectly placed sketch because the next sketch is my favorite of the whole night.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about that one for sure. Warhorse is next. We've got Bill and Kristen in the audience, Jason as the singer, and then we have Jimmy playing a horse because they couldn't afford a real horse anymore, and does ridiculous dances for Andy. We get another play mentioned here. We talked about the one-man show, and now we get this. This is a great moment, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, I had to write this quote down and transcribe it because I got me the biggest laugh because, again, when you go back and rewatch old SNL that you remember fondly, there's always a risk that you're going to go, oh, this actually isn't as funny as I remembered it, or this is funnier than I remembered it, which is obviously better. And it was in tonight's performance, the role of the horse, normally played by a puppeteer by a puppet and 4 puppeteers, will be played by Jack Jacobson. I just love the consonants and the alliteration of that, and the fact that it's just Jimmy Fallon. Like, hey, you got Jimmy. He's playing the horse. Shenanigans ensue. So I actually love this sketch. I think it's the best of the night, and it's my favorite thing of this episode, other than the warm and fuzzy feels. So, Andrew, I want to hear your take on that.
I really don't have a take is the thing. And that's fine. I mean, I don't, this didn't stick out to me. Maybe just after Beethoven, it kind of pummeled me a little bit, that this one also just kind of didn't really pick up the energy for me. And so, yeah, I don't know. This one, I don't know, kind of passed me by.
I wish they would have swapped Warhorse and Beethoven, because I'm looking at the 10-1 and I love the 10-1 as well. If they had update Warhorse, then Beethoven, 10-1, this episode would tick up a little bit for me, Bill.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, Fallon is great here, maybe because he doesn't have a lot to say. So I think we have a good moment. The audience reaction stuff doesn't really work for me. Somebody mentioned that in the chat.
Yeah, I was surprised how early they were doing that.
Yeah, like they just went all in.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to 2011 at the very least, of breaking up the sketches with people in the audience going, hey, I feel like I'm in a sketch right now. This is crazy.
Yeah, that is the worst part by far.
Yeah, I mean, they did that with all the black box theaters and things like that.
Yeah, so that might have been part of why I started I couldn't cue into the rest of the sketch, because that stuff started to annoy me a little bit.
And shout out to Keenan being the puppet in the second act when they couldn't afford the person playing the horse anymore.
And shout out to him playing BB King in the Beethoven.
Yeah, Keenan. Whatever happened to that guy?
I don't know.
So then we end on a very, very topical sketch, one that sticks in my mind. hated this guy so much. Sorry, folks. We get
Jesus?
locker room. No. Oh, don't get me
Christmas,
canceled,
Bill.
Andrew.
Wow! Holy crap, Bill!
No, we get locker room, and they're talking about the fact that Tim Tebow and the Broncos have just run roughshod over the entire league. I think they were 8-0 with a very mediocre quarterback who was very much religious and was beating a lot better teams, and was all the credit went to God. And Mike, I mean, you're a big football fan. I think he beat your Patriots, right?
Oh no! I mean that was the joke in the sketch. This episode was in December, so the Broncos were on a 6-game winning streak, so they were not 8-0. They just won. They got hot. They won 6 in a row. People were feeding it to Tebow mania, and the Tebow meme of him kneeling in prayer and stuff. And then Sudeikis plays Jesus. So that's the highlight here. Also a great sketch. So interesting that we talked about the walk-in and the Grodin endings, and now we're talking about the ending of the Fallon episode, which is all warm and fuzzy. And then we get like actual just sketch material that could be any night, not Christmas, not concept, not recurring. And my headline take, Bill, is Sudeikis as Jesus should have been recurring. I know he did the devil on Update was fantastic, but like him as like a laid back, like sarcastic Jesus was fantastic. No Fallon in this sketch, by the way. So I'm curious if Fallon was playing Jesus or was it football
Gotta get down to
player?
the ice rink.
That's also
has
like
to be, right?
because I guess I count the people in the sketch was Keenan and Taryn, maybe
Taryn,
yeah.
Jay Farrow, maybe
Jay Keenan,
and see if they were there. That's a good point. But in this case, Bill, the joke is made about the winning streak, and they say, "Oh well, next we have the Patriots next," and Jesus, played by Sudeikis, is like, "Oh, I can't really help you there. Like, I might be the son of God, but Tom Brady's got to be his nephew, and Bill Belichick has got to be like on the other team. He's Satan." And the Patriots beat the Broncos 41-23 the next day.
There it is.
And the winning streak. Yeah, I gotta mention it when I can. But yeah, this sketch though, apart from the Patriots stuff, is I love it. It's a great 10-1. It's so topical and it's so well written. And Sudeikis is like perfect as Jesus. So I'm like, he never did it again, and he has the perfect he did the devil and he did like VP Joe Biden. Like he was in this lane already, so maybe they didn't want to overdo it. I don't blame them, but like him doing this sarcastic Jesus, maybe supplanting Fallon, was perfect. So it's a great sketch and I loved it. So After Warhorse is my number 2.
Andrew, do you like this one with Timmy Tebow?
Yeah, this is my highlight of the night, for sure. And it's locked in a moment, but I feel that this is another one where you can step in at any time and understand the idea, for sure. And so, yeah, it's a great usage of Taryn. And I just like that when I went back, like I said, I skipped most of this entire era. I think by the time I stopped watching the show, I saw a little bit of Jason. And so when I went back and watched it, I was like, oh my God, of all the people, like, why don't people talk about Jason Sudeikis more? Like, this guy's incredible. And it just becomes more apparent that it's like, oh, this guy is like the Phil Hartman glue to this cast. And so this is really nice to kind of throw I think it's probably the same wig and costume that they put Phil in to play Jesus.
Probably, yeah.
And it's a nice little kind of tying those two things together. And it's different than Phil's. It's just more of Jason's sarcastic gregariousness and his sarcasm and stuff. And it really works well. It really feels like like I believe Mike said, it's like, oh yeah, we've written a sketch, like we did a sketch here, instead of just vibes and cameos and stuff. And so yeah, I do think the episode closes out on a real forgotten banger here. I really like this one.
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think there are topical things that you can kind of figure out as you go along. It doesn't have to be of the moment. I do love the fact that we've made a couple Family Guy references tonight. We get a South Park reference because Jason ends the sketch by saying Mormonism, all true, every word. Obviously, South Park had said, the correct answer is Mormons a few years before this, but kind of love that somebody was watching South Park somewhere in that writer's room, obviously, and decided to throw that in.
Well, I wonder if Hader was on the writing staff at that point. I know he was doing quick stints on South Park every so often. So
very well could be. Yeah. So overall thoughts, Andrew, on this Fallon episode being all the way at number 33.
Ooh, yeah. 32. I mean, I said to try to avoid being as salty as I could, but I just don't see it with this episode much at all. And so, yeah, I was kind of baffled by this one. And just generally, it's not my thing. I mean, if you've been watching and listening to the episode up to this point, you can get it. We just talked about the Grodin episode. You can kind of understand the kind of episodes I enjoy. And this one is not up there for me.
Yeah, Mike, I think, for all the divisiveness that Fallon gives us, I think, his hosting gigs are very good. But is he number 32 of all time good here?
It's not 32 good. I would say in the tiers of SNL, especially if you want to go in the 21st century, this is a great episode. So I will stand by that. Would not be my top 50, but it'll probably be my top 150. So take that as what you will.
Okay.
Like, I think it's a good episode, and I like the material here. And as I said before, I think Jimmy Fallon is a great Christmas host. So he really glues it together, and it's warm and fuzzy for the millionth time.
Yeah, this definitely would not be in my top 50, but probably top 100 for me, but I really would have to look and see. I mean, Fallon shows himself as a very good conduit. We know that he loves the history of SNL, so the fact that he's coming back to where he started at this point in his career was very nice, and I don't think most people would be angry to see Fallon come back and host for a fourth time. But yeah, definitely not top 50 for me. This is going to be an interesting conversation for our final episode of the night. We've been singing the praises of a cast member from the episode we just talked about. They come back and host one time, and so far, and that's going to be our number 31. Coming in, Jason Sudeikis and musical guest Brandy Carlisle, season 47, all the way back in October of 2021, when we were the SNL network, not the SNN. But I know everybody was super excited. This was somebody who was on a lot of people's lists to come back. He was on the high of Ted Lasso, and one of the more likable cast members of the last 25 years. Certainly, as Andrew said, like one of the glue guys that I think people felt they could depend on. And we get a very interesting episode here. We're kind of coming into a new era. It's the year after the COVID 46 season. We've got full audience again. They're still wearing masks, but we've kind of moved, and we've got new cast members in James Austin Johnson and Sarah Sherman and Aristotle. So there's a lot of high hopes at this point in season 47. Mike, what do you think seeing Jason Sudeikis here at number 31 in his only hosting gig?
Well, first of all, what stands out is that I've only been a podcaster for the SNN episode countdown for one episode, which is tonight. And this is the third episode that we've covered the same week. This is late October in the season. We did Walken, and then we did Grodin, and now we're doing Sudeikis the same week in the season. So interesting right there. This is a host who was very coveted to come back. as you mentioned, Bill, with his success outside the show. And I think it was an episode that I said to myself, I'll have to rewatch that one. I covered it, the stats for it, but it's a great episode. I did not vote for it, maybe because of recency, but I don't think there's really a dud in there. So I'm going to save my takes for the rundown, Bill.
Andrew, you said, the recency is a dangerous curve to go around earlier. This is only 3 years ago, 3.5. Is there some kind of danger in having this on a countdown like this, even if it is a great episode?
Yeah, I don't even know because, I have nothing against this episode. I liked it when it aired. I revisited it, and it's like, this is a sturdy outing of the modern version of SNL. But I beyond, it's like, Jason's great. He really props this episode up as well. It's probably the last truly great sort of alum hosted episode we've had. So I think maybe that might be propping it up, is like it's kind of the last time they really did a generally great job crafting an episode around an alum host, which I feel they have been kind of dropping the ball with lately. I don't know if it's the same season, but the Will Forte episode still haunts me a bit. And so I don't know if that's kind of what's going into this one being nominated, but it does kind of strike me of just like, is this too early to like really all time? I don't know. I really don't know, but I do think it is a solid outing of the show. So, I guess it's just a different contingency of fans kind of voting on this one.
Yeah, I will take this one over the Gosling one that we talked about last week, which got in purely on one sketch. This feels more top to bottom of a very, very good episode, a great episode maybe, and one that feels like it'll stand the test of time. But I don't know if either of you feels like there's a certain sketch we should start with as far as iconic. It's hard to say something's iconic 3 years later, but if you just want to go right through the rundown and work our way through that way.
I would say I do wonder if, and I think it popped after the episode aired, was the parent-teacher conference. So I think if this one had any sort of lasting legacy in that fashion, is that sketch, which I enjoyed then. Revisiting again, I was like, well, it's one of those ones where you kind of cue into and it's like, well, there's not a lot on the page here, but the performances are incredible. And the show, especially modern era of SNL, they love those cucking sketches. But just how locked in Ego and Jason are. I mean, you really can feel the sparks flying. Kyle Mooney really not sleepwalking in terms of how he's portraying his put off dorky husband who could have, kind of didn't have to give as much as he did. And I do think that's probably the one that I would guess stands out for most people. It does for me. That was the one that popped back into my head.
Yeah, I think that's the one we talked about the most that week when it aired. And, Mike, I'm sure you remember taking down all the stats for this. I mean, Ego and Jason here are just phenomenal.
And that's my headline as the stat daddy of SNN is that.
Can we make that a thing?
Yeah, if you want to, go ahead, chat. But from 43 till now, that's 161 episodes, that Sudeikis has the highest screen time of any host since 43, which is a total of 34 minutes even. A number that I got to that I had to actually audit myself and go, did I mess that up? Did I walk out of the room with the stopwatch here? And I vetted the episode again and again to make sure I got it right, because he had more screen time than like all the double duty hosts.
Mm.
So behind him was Donald Glover in 43, Lady Gaga now in 50.
I heard that as dog lover. I was like, who?
Donald Glover, yep.
Dog lover. Stat daddy dog lover.
Yep. There we go. Lady Gaga this season, Chance the Rapper in 45, Bad Bunny in 49. And then the next normal host, not double duty, was John Mulaney in 47, and then Chappelle in 42. So 34 minutes. So I have not done the stats. I'm sorry to the listeners for all, almost 1,000 episodes, but this is the most dominant of all the episodes in the modern SNL era, whether it be alumni or otherwise, because, and I'm going to pivot to you, Bill, for the rundown. He appears in Update and the Cold Open. So does get him the stats there. He only is absent from one pre-tape the whole night.
Yeah, just a phenomenal night. And the only thing I'll add is, Sudeikis, I'm not going to put him in the same class as a Phil Hartman or something like that, but I feel like he's almost as beloved by this era. People coming up watching the show. So I remember when Phil came back and hosted and how big of a deal that was. And Jason felt much like that when he came back. And the pure domination, Mike, is just, that's why you're the best, Mike. That's why you're the stat daddy. I'm going to make that a thing. I'm getting
You're the dog lover.
34 minutes. That's insane. Behind him is Glover Gambino, double duty, 31 minutes, 21 seconds. And that's including 2 performances. So Sudeikis had Brandi Carlile for performances. He only introduced her. And that was it. So 34 minutes, I'm like waiting for, maybe a spot episode like a Betty White or something along those lines where like someone's going to beat Sudeikis' record.
I wonder how Eric Idle's first episode from season 2. I remember he's all over that. Wonder. But I guess that goes hand in hand with maybe why this one was chosen is that if you are a Jason Sudeikis fan, you get your money's worth here. You get the Jason Sudeikis hosted episode.
And I think starting right from the start here, like one of the things that we all kind of hope for when somebody like Jason comes back is getting to see their impressions. And he was a great Joe Biden. We've had 10 over the course of the history of the show. One of the better ones, and we're only 4 episodes into Zhazh being the main guy for Biden, and we get the ghost of Biden past here. So we get the 2013 Biden, and we get the current one, who's more rundown and not as beloved. And it's really, really interesting to see. The show doesn't do this enough, bringing these impressions back together like this. I love every part of this, Andrew.
Yeah, this is solid stuff, and especially for a modern cold open. I mean, this knocks it out of the park for me personally, where I think it's not a great chunk of just part of where the show is at right now. So this one really, in those terms, is phenomenal. Though I think my favorite part is still on the night and on rewatch is Alex Moffat coming out as his Joe Biden. Like, who are you? It's like, I was Joe Biden of March, 2019 or whatever. It's like, March, get out of here. So that joke still really cracked me up. But yeah, I mean, this is a good way to do topical political material and get one of Jason's most beloved impressions in there as well.
Yeah, Mike, it's very meta of SNL to do this when Moffat had done it very unceremoniously for a couple of episodes back in March of 2021. So to bring him into the mix here. Too bad they couldn't get Kevin Nealon and Woody Harrelson into the building for this one, right?
And this was the perfect mix, right? This was new cast member James Austin Johnson doing Trump and Biden in his first few episodes of his season. And it was a new Biden, right? So kind of like being a new cast member, like trying to like play the president is tough, right? So he did it in his first cold open, season 47, episode 1. Cold open, he played Biden. And now we've seen Dana Carvey do it in 50 and kind of like the older Biden and kind of did a little better. And in the meantime, Judge like lost that impression to Mikey Day, right? So it's a moment in time, but SNL acknowledged it. So I'll give them credit for that. And so, yeah, of course, Moffat being Biden from March of 21 is the perfect moment. But having Sudeikis back playing his old Biden, which was so perfect, but so different from that, is a sketch. So I would say with Perot and Stockdale from the episode we talked about earlier tonight, this is going to be a great quote unquote political cold open that I will always remember. So I love this one.
Yeah, me too. And we get some great lines here too, besides everything we've talked about, because 2013 Biden doesn't know that Trump became president. And the current Biden starts talking about the porn stars and the McDonald's in the White House, and Hillary got awesome.
Yeah. That's a fun line.
Yeah.
And the best joke, Joe Manchin, only mansion I care about is the Playboy Mansion.
Right. But bump. Yeah, so we have a great cold open here, and then we also get a very memorable monologue here. We're starting to go into this era at this point of heartfelt monologues, and I think Jason does it best here. He really feels like he's speaking to the audience about special moments and how he had the two very special moments in his life, becoming a cast member and watching as a fan at home, and then promising that nothing's going to happen. Mike, how great is this?
This is the first episode, at least for me, in this countdown that we've covered. So it was fun to rewatch because I got the email, saw the episodes. I go, I don't need to rewatch Sudeikis. I did the stats on it, and of course, I had to rewatch it because we're professionals, Bill. We rewatch everything. And anyway, I watched it, and this was my highlight. To see Sudeikis do this like very ardent and like earnest monologue was shocking to me at the time. Being a guy who I thought might have been in the camp of a Sandler or a Murphy, of somebody who was like, I don't need to do that. If I do it, it's a favor because I owe you SNL, not because I want to. So to see Sudeikis do like a not funny monologue, like he did like a very genuine, like genuflect to 8H, was kind of jarring live, and now rewatching it was my highlight.
Andrew, you feel the same way?
Yeah, and this feels like I think they had a nice little pocket of a couple of years there where I wouldn't say all the monologues felt like this, but they were going back to like a more personal tact for the monologues, and we've gotten away from that again, and I'm not a fan of that, but this is a perfect example of that. And it really doesn't completely surprise me because I know that Jason, like even after season 38, I think he's still like up until around season 39 premiered was like, I might come back. Like he's one of those guys that, just might have been there the entire, might have been a Keenan if he wanted to. He really loved the show, and you can really feel that here, for sure. And so, yeah, it's nice. I think you really, you can feel him get choked up at a certain moment, and it's just like, oh, Jason really likes the show.
And Bill, at the moment, he's the 16th most tenured cast member of all time.
Wow.
So he played 8.5 years in the cast. Hired as writer before that.
2 years as a
Tom
writer
Brady
before
Super
that?
Bowl shuffle when he got adopted in the cast. So 16th most tenured person of all time in SNL is Sudeikis. So I think we think about Wig, Hader, Sandberg, and him. Maybe because of his success after the fact, that we think that like Sudeikis might be too big for the show, but in this moment he gets right down to earth.
Yeah, and it's rare that we see somebody like that come back. I mean, he's on the hottest show at the time. I mean, right? So to have him come back into the building is just a great moment. So let's get into the other sketches here. Science Room. It's third time we see this. A lot of the same beats that we get the other two times. I think they all work for me. I think the one we get after this with Steve and Marty works for me. But Cecily and Mikey play so well off of Jason here, Andrew.
Oh yeah, these also never fail to work for me. Specifically, I love Cecily so much in these. If you just zero in on her, you're gonna have a blast and love the choices she makes. And so yeah, these are pretty sturdy reoccurring sketches for sure. And so I wouldn't say this is the best. I still think the Sam Rockwell one is probably the best, but it's a fine addition to the oeuvre of the Science Room sketches.
Mike, did you learn more about Black Lives Matter or ignoring the balls watching this one back?
Yeah, well, my sister said you should never ignore the balls. That's what Cecily said. I mean, well, this one, I think because I covered stat-wise in my backtracking, I did Rockwell in the past year, which was the first one. So I'm familiar with all the jokes, and this one I think might be, I don't know. Rockwell's hard to beat, but this one is either tied for first or second place for me. And it's so good. And there's a moment where they bring in Kyle and Melissa as the parents of Josh and Lonnie, and Melissa reads the cue card as Loney, and he's like, "Your name's Loney? I've been calling you Lonnie the whole time."
See, I've never seen the because that happened in Dress, and I never actually seen that version.
No, that was live.
Was that live?
Yeah,
I thought that was in Dress.
They've replaced it, I think, in with the Dress that doesn't have that error.
Interesting. Okay. Well, either way, I have never seen the error. I will say,
which is fun. Anyway, Bill, I love Science Room all four times, but this one might be my favorite because of Sudeikis in that moment. But the Rockwell one's hard to beat.
Yeah, and we get a couple of interesting pre-tapes sandwiched with the Annie sketch. Let's talk about the pre-tapes first. We get Melon, which is kind of an adrenaline version of Ellen, and then we've got the non-stick underwear for men that have problems, controlling their bodily functions. Andrew, either one of these work for you?
Strangely enough, I just watched it, and I don't remember the Jake's non-stick underwear for men at all. Oddly enough, I do not remember that. Melon is fun, but has the same fault that I find in almost every pre-tape in this era, is that it's like a minute too long. It just goes on just a little bit too longer than it needs to be honest. And so yeah, I think it's fine. I don't, if anybody wants to tell me what Jake's non-stick, I swear I watched it, but
that was the one that Sudeikis did not appear in. It was like a Chris Red, Moffat maybe piece, but the Melon pre-tape had a 10-second Judge Louis C.K. impression.
Oh, right.
Which was so good and has never returned. So I really want, if Louis C.K. is under the Five Timers Club, I want Judge to do Louis C.K. on the show again because it's so good.
Yeah, I think the basic context of the Jake's non-stick underwear was basically if you poop your pants, you get tired of throwing them in the garbage bin at work and hiding them under all the paper. This works like an egg on Teflon frying pan. So,
boy, okay,
it's good. It's as good as it sounds. Mike,
okay.
Either one of these stick out to you?
Well, I like Melon. I don't like the underwear one. I think that's the only dud for me in the show. And to Jason's credit, it's the one he does not appear in for reasons unknown to me. But it's Melon is great because I don't think they've done that enough. It's kind of like the gender swapping of SNL has a bad history, but doing it with an angle I think is good. So I think
Yeah,
having Ellen post Ellen and being like, this is a masculine version of daytime
a
TV,
toxic
and they
masculine.
like, but they go full throttle, so it's not like they tiptoe in it. So I like it.
Yeah, Mellon is fine. I think this is in a time before Ellen herself became toxic to a lot of people, and all the stories came out about the way she treated staff and guests and things like that. She's still kind of the darling of the morning talk show hosts in 2021. So all the way back then. But yeah, I mean, I like that one fine as well.
It just needs some trimming, is the thing.
Yeah, it's way too long. I don't think we need Conor McGregor and Jake Paul. We get it; it's masculine. Then we get Annie, which is a fun Melissa Villaseñor sketch. They get to sing "I Think I'm Gonna Like It Here," and Cecily's introducing all the different people who work there: the maid, the teacher, the chef, and then there's Ricky, who nobody really seems to know what he's doing there. Mike, what did you think of Annie here?
This one did not work for me on my live watch, and anecdotally, this is the first time I watched SNL live in the daytime because I was on my honeymoon in Hawaii. So I was watching SNL on a beach on my phone and like elbowing my wife, being like, "Hey, like Sudeikis is on here and Brandy Carlisle," and I referenced that to her yesterday, and she's like, "I don't remember that." I was like, "Well, yeah, we were having a good time." So this one I thought was a dud at the time, and I still think is dud territory, but he channels an vintage Aykroyd that works for me because the sketch doesn't work. It's a big production sketch, like great costumes, great set, music, everything is working, but it's not that funny. But I think Sudeikis makes it work, so credit to him.
Andrew, we talk about escalation all the time, especially in modern SNL. There's no escalation here. It's all about him being a shitbag, and the character's great. I love the reference, Mike, that Dan Aykroyd, but yeah.
Oh yeah, it's very Irwin Mainway coded for sure. Yeah, so this is especially if you want to just cue into this episode. Being in this list on the strength of Jason as a host, with anybody else, this would just be a disaster. Like, just on page, it is not good at all. But Jason finds a lane for it and just kind of makes it pop a little bit by cueing into some Aykroydian sleaze, and that is fun, but it does not. The rest of it is so weak that it cannot be propped up simply by that.
Yeah, agree. Then we go to Brandy Carlisle, who's on for the first time, has become an SNL darling, been there 3 times since. Fantastic performances of Broken Horses and Right on Time. Weekend update, we only get one correspondent, but it's a big one. We get the devil back in the building. We just talked about Jesus Sudeikis. Now we get the devil Sudeikis for the 6th and final time thus far. Andrew, what do you think of the devil coming back?
Yeah, fun. It's another one that feels a little bit long, so I don't know what else they had in the canon for updates. I don't know if it would have helped to kind of snip this down a little bit and throw somebody else out there as the only correspondent of the night. And so it does go, I feel a little long, but again, it's Jason. It's him doing the devil. It's a fun character to catch up with after, the last time we've seen him. So it's hard to complain. Jason always has, he's always having the time of his life doing this character. So, yeah, mostly enjoyable. Kind of another one where a trim would have really made it sing a little bit more for me.
Yeah, Mike, he says that the Astros and Florida and Tom Brady were all his doing. Do you agree with that take?
Not the latter, for sure. I mean, that was was going on a long time. But yeah, 4 minutes 17 seconds in that update segment. As our friend Andrew said, it was the only correspondent that night, so that definitely helped his percentage of the episode for sure, but also his gross screen time because he was the only guy there. 4 minutes 17. But I love the devil on update. Sudeikis, I mentioned the Jesus with the Tebow sketch and the Fallon Christmas show. It's like it's the sarcasm. It's he did the a-holes with Kristen Wiig. It's having the Sudeikis attitude of being a fatherly straight man, but with an edge. Like, so he did it a lot, and the devil was a prime example of that. So I love that this was brought back because it could have been lost to time, but him returning to host brought back, kind of reinvigorated that character. So one that I doubt we'll see again. So I'm glad we got it here.
Yeah, the week leading up to this, I can remember all our coverage. What characters is he going to bring back? And I know this was one that we had hoped for. I think we're all pleasantly surprised that he did. Then we get another character that he brings back that we were hoping for, but I don't think any of us really thought we were going to get. We get the final, thus far, version of What Up With That? And
Right.
We've got Vance back in the building. We get Fred coming back and doing his character. It's the first live What Up With That in 9 years. So we got one during the SNL at Homes. We hadn't seen it in a very long time. And I think this was a pleasant surprise, Mike.
Yes, because speaking of the stats, he had 1:48 in that one. Yes, so because he's a background character, he's playing Vance. He's wearing a red tracksuit. He's doing the Running Man. It's kind of what got him on the show from the aforementioned Super Bowl Shuffle with Tom Brady, which episode I voted for in the top 50, by the way. I love that episode. Falafel City, look it up. Anyway, so that actually kind of depleted his screen time a little bit for an episode that he has the most screen time I've ever recorded. But that was great because they kind of, if that is the goodbye of that sketch, it works to give him a backstory. And Fred's there as well as Giuseppe with we had Emily Ratajkowski and Nicholas Braun as the guests. We did not have the Bill Hader, Lindsey Buckingham, but that was the last time we got it. And I thought that 50 would be the crowning ending moment. But maybe we're saving that for Keenan's last episode, which will be in probably 2041. So we'll see that sometime.
Andrew, you a fan of the What Up With That program?
I think they're fine. I've always been sort of not as into these as other people, just because you've kind of seen one, you've seen them all, but it totally makes sense to bring it back for this, because I think, strangely enough, as it went along, it almost became as beloved for Jason's Running Man than anything else going on in the sketch. So it is fun that they would kind of cue into that of like, oh yeah, Jason's like one of the biggest parts of this. And so it's fun. It's energetic. I don't think these really ever make me laugh out loud a lot. But they're fine. I don't dislike them, but they are very samey. So like if you watch them all back to back to back to back, it'd be a lot,
Yeah.
Don't really progress.
Absolutely. I think we do miss Bill here as Lindsay, for sure. Lindsey Buckingham. But Nicholas Braun fills in admirably. And we also get Oscar Isaac. So that's fun. One of the better hosts of the last 5 years. So yeah, that's fun. Next we get Declaration Pitch, which is, this era is fond of doing founding father sketches. I think this is one of the weaker ones, but it'll be interesting to hear what you think, Andrew.
This seems like I don't know. It's fine. I really don't have a lot to say. Honestly, it's not a bad sketch. It doesn't really bring the show down, but it never really. I don't know. It just never really finds any other gears to it, and so it just kind of peters out. and doesn't really leave much of an impression. And honestly, that's kind of what happens with this episode. Sadly, after What's Up With That, is that it does just kind of peter out for me.
Yeah, I think the highlight here, Mike, is 80 and Aristotle. Remember him? Coming in as time travelers and saying that the future people are pissed because there's no no map on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
I do remember, Bill. 15 minutes, 38 seconds. I'll know for the rest of my life. Aristotle's career screen time on SNL. But yeah, he appears in that one. And I think this is, we talked about Walken in season 18 and the lack of Farley and Myers and Carvey. He was leaving in February. This is one to look back on, I think, though. So we started the show tonight talking about that concept before we revealed episode 31 on the countdown. And this is one that, Bill, you're going to ask me later, so I'll say my take. But this is a crucible kind of crux SNL 47 post-COVID, where we have Sarah Sherman, Aristotle, and James entering, and we also have the 80s Kate Cecily's leaving, and where's Pete, and Kyle, and after Beck left, where it's the same kind of deal, right, Bill? It's I think that Sudeikis hosting here is benefited by the turnover. So you mentioned it, so that goes into the last game with just Keenan and Heidi. But anyway, I think that's important to note.
Yeah, this episode definitely starts to lose any kind of momentum, and this is one of those examples. And I think the final one that we're going to talk about, Casino Proposal, it's just basically the Robert Redford film, which I'm blanking on, but Keenan keeps offering to sleep with Heidi because Jason lost all his money, and keeps changing the amounts until it gets to 300 million or 3 million dog hairs and yada yada yada. Andrew, 10-1 sketch. This working for you here?
I kind of Indecent Proposal. Yes. This nearly contains the kind of absurdity and wordplay and back and forth banter that I like. But this is another one where either it needs a trimming or another rewrite. I kind of like the idea of this, but it never really comes together, and it feels very long, and kind of like they are just stalling to the end of the episode. It feels like by the end of this sketch, like they are just kind of running out the clock. And so, yeah, this one is one I really would like to enjoy better than I do, because at the core of it, it's something I would enjoy, but never comes together.
Yeah, Mike, we get the What Up With That with Keenan and Jason working together. Obviously, they were in the cast together because Keenan's been in the cast with everybody. But this is a fun thing to see them kind of working together on a more muted basis, even though it's a silly premise. Did you like this one?
I did like this one. I think it was a good Keenan role. He played more character rather than playing Keenan. On this, I think Sudeikis and Heidi were great in it. Didn't have a lot to say, but it was a good 10-1. It was 4 minutes, 11 seconds, which was 12 seconds longer than the declaration pitch one, which felt quick to Andrew. So if that makes any sense to you, Andrew. But
yeah,
I
guess it just didn't, another one where just like no real gear changes. And so, yeah, you start to feel the time.
Yeah. So I think, I know that it was mentioned at the top of the show for this episode was the parent teacher, which I know, Bill, we dive into that enough to give me your take on that sketch, because it was like the best things of the night. I mean,
I think we covered it, but yeah, I think, I really enjoy this one. Kyle, especially in this part of his tenure on the show, is really leaning into the cuckold sketch roles, but this is one of the better ones for him. And I mean, the chemistry between Ego and Jason is undeniable. I
Because they
think
do a reverse cuck now. It's like,
right. Yeah.
Sudeikis being the teacher with Ego, and now it's Keenan at the casino with Heidi. So it's
Exactly.
True,
Wow.
true,
they
true,
do
true.
flip
Yin
the
yang.
script on us.
But yeah, so Mike, while we're finishing up here, what are your overall thoughts on something from only 3.5 years ago being number 31 on the greatest episodes?
Well, when I do by the numbers, I get some hate sometimes for my take that I don't get excited necessarily for alumni episodes. I get excited by new SNL. So I get excited, of course, as a fan to see people return and what could happen and what will they choose to bring back. In this case, I think it was perfectly done. So in this case, Sudeikis returning. He put forth a near perfect attempt at an SNL alumni return host effort. So I did not vote for it, but I think I could vote for it in the future. Going back to our discussion about, statute of 5-10 years. So I do like the episode. I think there's really no miss. There's like some B minus C plus material in the middle with Annie and the underwear pre-tape. But I will prop up Science Room. I'll prop up Melon and What Up With That. If that's the final return of that sketch of all time, even better. But I like the episode, so I think it wouldn't be 31 for me, but it would be might be in the 90s. That's fair.
Yeah. Andrew, on the merit of it being one of the better episodes of the last 5 to 10 years, do you think that gets it as high as it is right here?
Hard to say. I mean, I do agree with Mike. Pretty much everything there is like if we were covering a 100 to 51, this would, this would. I understand it, but just in the context of tonight, better than that Christopher Walken episode, better than the Charles Grodin episode. I don't know, man. It's solid. It is It's like it's good. I don't dislike the episode, but we're talking greatest episodes of all time, and I really just don't. I don't know. I can't find what makes it that. I do see what makes it a good, solid episode of SNL, but greatest of all time, I can't find it right now, and so. But it is a solid outing for Jason. And so, it was fun to revisit it and go, yeah, this was good. This was good. And Jason still rules. And I like this episode generally. So it was a fun to rewatch more than consider if it's 31 of the 50 best episodes.
Yeah, this one is more perplexing to me on the basis of I'm not mad at it. Like the Lohan and the Gosselin were way too high based on one sketch. I feel like this is a very, very good episode, but I don't know that I could have it this high either. It is fun to go back and rewatch because I typically do not rewatch episodes from the last 10 or 15 years very quickly. I mean, it's, I'm watching stuff from season 12 and season 2 and stuff like that. But this was fun to go back and rewatch and kind of see the beginnings of Zhazh and some of the other people that we love from this cast. So that's it, folks. So last segment we have here is going to be my rankings. Now, John chickened out and did not send his rankings in because he was afraid that everyone was going to vote for me. So I win by default, but I'll still say what my rankings are just to keep it fun. So I'm keeping Baldwin from season 15 at number 1. Sigourney Weaver stays at number 2 for me. And right after that, I put the Grodin Simon episode that we talked about tonight. I'll put Walken from season 18 at number 4. Timberlake season 36 at number 5. 6 is McFarlane, then Walken, Swayze from season 16.
Oh, you're reconfiguring the list.
Yes, John and I do this every week, and then John asks people to vote for it.
I see.
And but he didn't send his list. He
see,
was
I
a little busy, so we'll let him go.
Okay.
But then I've got Fallon at number 9 here. I think this might be a little too high, but I didn't see where else to put him. Baldwin at 24, Shatner at 11, Dag at 12, Conan 13, Seinfeld at 14, and I put Sudeikis here at number 15.
Ooh, Fallon over Sudeikis. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. After talking it through, I might have to reconsider that. And these lists are fluid, so certainly something to think about after talking through it. JT from 38 at number 16, then Hathaway, MJ, Gosling, and Lohan finishing out my rankings. You can still vote for me in the chat, folks, if you want. So for the other thing that John asked of me from the beginning was the predictions for this. I added 1 to the 5 timers. I'm now at 6 out of 10. No premieres, so stay at 3 out of 5. No finales, stay at 1 out of 6 for that. Finally broke the chain on the cast members, got 2. Still don't think I'm going to get to 13. I think I overshot that by quite a bit. And 17 out of 31 seasons. So that's where I'm at with that. So I think I'm on a good trajectory here, Andrew, other than cast members. I really thought by this point would have seen a lot more cast members.
I guess so. Is Mike dead? Oh, no, Mike's alive.
Mike's alive.
Okay. Yeah, I guess those alum episodes, they are, it's kind of interesting to consider them, of like, a lot of them aren't the best in a strange way. You go back to them,
Right.
like, actually, the show usually fits better in an era when it's doing its own thing rather than bringing a cast member and trying to make them fit into the mold of what is going on for that season. So all very interesting things to consider.
Yes, and if you all enjoyed this and you want to see these episodes, some of which are very hard to find, join the patron for SNL Network, patreon.com/the SNL Network. John is putting up the episodes that we talked about tonight this week, so you can go back and watch these and then watch this as a companion piece and see if you agree with what us 3 gentlemen have been saying all night. Andrew Dick, thanks for joining us. Tell us what you got going on over at That Week at SNL.
Ooh. Well, speaking of Patreons, I mean, we've got all of our new stuff is coming out over there, patreon.com/thatweekendSNL, covering a whole bunch of fun, unique stuff. We just did part 1 of the SNL 50th anniversary special. So we did everything up to and including update. We went up, just basically halfway through the show. 2 hours on that. We also covered the Brady Bunch hour from 1977. So speaking of Jan Brady, we got to talk about fake Jan. And we're also just releasing old off-week episodes onto the free feed. So if you want to hear what it sounds like with us talking about a sketch comedy that isn't SNL, we just put out the 3rd episode of the Richard Pryor Show, which is speaking of greatest episodes of sketch comedy, that is another 5 out of 5 for me. If you are a fan of sketch comedy and you have not seen the 4-episode run of the Richard Pryor Show, please go do, and especially episode 3 is just amazing. So yeah, that's what we got going on. Patreon free feed.
Very awesome. Mike Murray, always bringing the heat, even when he's talking about Tom Brady. What do you got going on in your off season?
My off season usually involves an audit of stats and a lot of nerdy numbers stuff that I do, and checking data and rechecking data and sorting it. So nothing for the listeners to hear about, but if you have an episode you want me to check out, then I can do it for you. So just hit me up, because as I mentioned, Sudeikis has the record of the last 8 seasons, and from 43 to 50.
Yeah, check out that Eric Idle season 2, his first one. See, I'm wondering how much.
It's a good one to do.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much Eric takes over that episode.
Because I am wrapping up that season and doing. I'm going backwards order. So
Mm.
once it hits the fall and the leaves fall from the trees, you know where I'll be, Bill. I will be back doing spreadsheets on spreadsheets on spreadsheets. So I will be back doing SNL stats full time. So thanks for having me, Bill, on a hiatus week. Give me talking about old SNL, which I love to talk about. I never do, with Andrew Dick and you. So I love it, Bill. Great summer. Keep it going.
Thanks for joining us, both of you. If you enjoyed this, we'll be back next Monday, and we'll go down to 3 episodes next week. So we'll be more in the 2-hour range, allegedly. Unless we have 5
This is a marathon.
That is a marathon.
Maybe.
Maybe. And if you haven't checked out the Everything You Need to Know, please go back and watch those. Season 23 will be coming up shortly. John will be back next Monday night with me. As always, we're a presentation of latenighter.com. So thank you for joining us. For Andrew Dick and Mike Murray, I am Bill Kenny. Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.